34-year-old cashier, Angela Mantha, is suing her mother, cabinet maker Storm Linnell, for filing false charges with Child Protective Services. Storm says Angela's fiancé is physically abusive.
Judges, is case number 352 on the calendar in the matter of Mantha versus Linnell. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats, please.
Miss Mantha, this is your mom.
Yes.
And your complaint says that your mom filed false charges against you with Child Protective Services involving your daughter, who is how old?
6.
And you want to be compensated for your aggravation.
Yeah.
Your mother says she had legitimate concerns for your daughter's safety. Mm-hmm. And she had at some point been the caretaker for that child. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's why she called Child Protective Services to do an investigation. So I have to get some facts. Is this your only child?
No, I have a 9-month-old son also.
Who's the father of that child?
Jason.
This is Jason.
Yes.
Jason, you stand up there because I may have some questions for you. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Now, your daughter was born when you were 18.
Yes.
Where is her father?
He's incarcerated right now.
So that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And when did your daughter go and live with your mother?
She was probably 14 or 15 months old. It was right after her first birthday.
What's her name?
Jasmine.
Why did Jasmine go and live with your mother?
At the time, I didn't have a stable place for her to stay. I was living with my boyfriend, who was an alcoholic, and he had friends in and out of the house all hours of the night. I didn't have my own job, so I couldn't take care of myself and support us on my own, and it wasn't a good place for my daughter to be.
Were you doing any drugs or alcohol?
I was drinking a lot.
Was the child removed from your custody by the state, or was this initially voluntary?
Voluntary.
Was the state ever involved in placement of your daughter with your mother? How long did Jasmine stay with your mother?
6 months.
And then the boyfriend went to jail? Or you left?
I just left. I moved out of there. I decided it was time for me to be a mother, and I moved back in with my mother and my daughter.
And how long did you stay?
6 or 7 months, maybe.
And
just long enough for me to get a job and get out on my own.
And your mother let you take your daughter?
Yes.
With no fight?
No fight.
So far, I got it. You were off track, came back home, you got on track, your mother was there for you. Mm-hmm. She was there for you to pick up the slack, taking on the responsibility of a toddler, took on you as a responsibility when you moved home. She saw that you had gotten it together, you moved out with your daughter, moved into your own place?
Yes.
No boyfriend?
At the time, no.
Then what happened?
I stayed moved out for a while. I had actually moved in with a coworker of mine. At that time, that was probably the first time that my mother had called CPS on me.
Why do you think she did that?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I don't really know.
Who was this coworker? Male?
Yes.
Maybe she didn't approve.
She knows who he is.
Is he a good person?
Yes, he is.
And how long did you live with?
Actually, probably about a month and a half.
And then where did you go?
Back to my mom's.
Because that didn't work out?
Right.
Went back to your mom's, and how long did you stay with your mother?
After that, probably 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Then where did you go?
Then I got my own place again.
How long did you have your own place?
I stayed there for 9 months.
Then what happened?
I moved out, and I moved in with my Aunt Becky, actually. And I stayed with her for probably about a month. That's when I met him, and we found our own place.
How long did you know Jason before you moved in with him?
A year and a half, maybe 2 years. I worked with him also.
What kind of work do you do, Jason?
Right now, I drive a garbage truck.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
3.
Including the 9-month-old?
Mm-hmm.
Where are your other 2 children?
One is living in Bangor with his mother, and the other is in Tennessee.
Were you married to either of those 2 ladies?
My second child, I was married to her.
How old are you?
27.
So you're 27. You have 3 children. 2 of them you don't see.
One of them I see every weekend. During the summer, I see him every other week.
So only one of them you don't see?
Yes.
You support the other 2 children?
I pay child support every week.
For both of them?
Yes.
Okay. You would acknowledge to me, would you not, that you have not had a stable life thus far, is that right?
That's correct.
And that if your mother had concerns about you, they would be legitimate concerns based upon your history, right?
Yeah, yes.
Why did you call Child Protective Services the last time, and when was it? if you'd like to tell me.
Mid-September of this year.
Tell me why.
Well, there's been an ongoing situation with Jasmine saying that Jason has been mean to her.
Has she been more specific?
Just that he's been physically mean to her twice.
Well, she didn't use the word physically.
No. He grabbed her by the back neck and ran her into the bedroom one time.
You mean like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And once he had smacked her on the back of the head like this. That's how she explained it.
Okay.
You know, I was worried about that, but I tried talking to Jasmine. I said, you could talk to Mama about this. Let Mama know what's going on. She says, I do, but Mama gets mad at me if I tell her Jason's mean to me. And I says, well, I'll talk to Mama. Well, I tried talking to Mama about things that have been going on. Mama don't want to listen to me.
You mean those two things? Was there anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
yes,
I'd like to know what else.
Well, I was taking my, you know, I have my granddaughter a lot, sometimes up to 4 times a week over weekends. On several occasions during the last few months, when she was time for her to go home, she hung right on to me. Please, Mammy, I don't want to go. I don't want to stay. Her mother literally had to peel her off of me to keep her in her home, as she said she was afraid of Jason. And then on an occasion in August, Angela had gone out with a bunch of her girlfriends, and one of them happened to be my future daughter-in-law. And Sharon,
your
my
future
daughter, she is my daughter-in-law now, had come to me and told me that on that occasion, when they were getting ready to leave, Jasmine clung onto my daughter, holding on to her, saying, Mom, please don't leave me with Jason. And they literally peeled her off of Angela, left her with Jason, and went out drinking anyways. Now, this has been an ongoing situation since Angela's been 17. She had her baby when she was 17, Your Honor. She turned 18 a month later. That left me responsible for...
Oh, I understand. So that's the reason that you called Child Protective Services. So, let me hear you.
History.
Your Honor, I talk to my daughter a lot. We have a good relationship together. She has never told me anything like that. She has not said anything about Jason. She's always talked good about him. She's here right now. I would love to have you talk to her if you would do that.
Mm-hmm. I will.
I would like you to.
Sure.
When Child Protective Services came and did their investigation, did they give you any sort of a report afterwards?
Yep. I have a closing statement and I have the assessment. I also have a copy of a random drug test that they give Jason at his work, just because she says we have excessive drug and alcohol use in the home.
Okay, just hold on to those things. I'm going to go and speak to Jasmine. Why don't you all have a seat for a couple of minutes?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You leave with her, you stay someplace else for a month, then you come back to your mother, then you leave your mother, then you go back to your aunt. So this child at age 6 has absolutely zero stability. Fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Of course it is.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Mantha says her mother, Storm Linnell, filed false charges with Child Protective Services. Storm says she was worried about her granddaughter.
Jasmine really didn't want to talk to me. She's a little upset. I think she's upset because, you know, she's in a strange place and she knows that this is all about her. She probably knows that there's been a lot of friction because of, she views it because of things that she says.
She loves my mother. She really does.
Oh, well, there's no question in my
really
mind she loves her mother. Okay, so let's talk about objectively what we have. First, let me see the closing statement from Child Protective Services.
His drug test is in there, too. I don't know if you want that, but...
Okay. Do you think that your mother maliciously called Child Protective Services?
Yes, I do.
Tell me why you believe that your mother maliciously called Child Protective Services.
Because during the last fight that we had when we was all at my Aunt Becky's house, she told me right then and there that she was going to do anything in her power to get Jasmine. What that means, I don't know.
Well, in what context did she say that to you?
Well, we were fighting.
What were you fighting about?
What happened is when I come in, I was on the road all day. I had a lot of doctor's appointments and stuff, and I had my son with me, who was 9 months old. And I brought him in to feed him and change him. And I don't smoke around my son, and when I walked in, everybody put out their cigarettes. Well, I guess a guy that was there, Kevin, still had a cigarette going. I did not see him with a cigarette in his hand. And then my mother lit up a cigarette, so I just started packing the stuff up, and I was just going to leave. I didn't want to start anything. And she just
This was at your aunt's house?
This is at my Aunt Becky's house, yes. And that's when she started in. She's like, well, I don't know why you didn't say anything to Kevin about him smoking. And I was like, I didn't see him with a cigarette. I really didn't. If I had seen him, I would have said something to him.
Go ahead.
And that's when it all started, and we exchanged some words back and forth. She's talking about how I'm not a very good mom, and this and that, and she looked at me, she's like, I will get Jasmine, I will do anything to get her.
Well, that wasn't the first time that your mother has called Child Protective Services.
No. I've had Child Protective Services call them like 3 times. 2 for a fact I know with my mother.
Any of them when you were living with Jasmine when she was a baby?
No. The first time is when I first moved back from Bingham. I think that my mother might have moved out and I was renting her place from her. Myself and my girlfriend Amanda and Jasmine were living there. That was the first time CPS was at my house. The second time is when I moved to Joe with my girlfriend Amanda and Jasmine. Mm-hmm. And
that lasted for a month before you moved out, if my memory is correct.
And he was only at my house once, and he left and he never come back. I don't know what happened to that.
I don't know either.
No.
I don't get the sense that your mother called maliciously.
No.
No. I mean, for the first 14 months, you were not living in a reasonable relationship because you were drinking. Father of the child was drinking.
No,
There isn't a question in my mind that during the initial period of her life, the child was neglected. Then she goes to stay with your mother. You come back and stay with your mother. Then you leave with her. Then you stay someplace else for a month, someplace else for 5 months. Then you come back to your mother. Then you leave your mother. Then you go back to your aunt. So this child at age 6 has absolutely zero stability. Fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Of course it is. I mean, just look at it. I'm looking at it objectively. The child has had, in 6 years, no stability. She's had Joe, she's had Jason, she's had her father, she's had I don't know who else. She's had her mother, she's had her grandmother, she's had her aunt. At age 6, she's had no stability. So I'm telling you as an outsider that thus far as a mother, you have not been terrific.
That's fair.
Then you hook up with Jason, who is in his 20s, who already has had 2 major mistakes. One a marriage, one an out-of-wedlock child. And I don't know anything else about him. But I do know that there is cause for concern because your track record's not terrific.
To be honest, you know, I never said that I was a great mom when my daughter was a baby, because I wasn't. But for the past 3.5 years, I've provided a more than stable home. I've been working full-time, or, well, part-time. I have a beautiful home, transportation. She's in school, she's healthy. She's in soccer and Girl Scouts. I do a lot with the school for her. My whole life revolves around her now.
No, well, it doesn't revolve around her. It revolves around her and a 9-month-old.
Well,
and his child who's there all the time.
Exactly.
According to you.
But I treat all the children the same. I don't give anybody special attention. That's a problem?
Yeah. In your daughter's eyes, that's a problem. If you treat everybody the same. It just is. That doesn't mean she's right. She's 6 years old. But she had her grandmother, who was her focus. Mm-hmm. You've taken that away from her. Because according to what I read, she doesn't see her grandmother anymore.
She hasn't for 2 months.
According to this. So that's true. So she hasn't seen her grandmother in 2 months, so you've taken that piece of stability away from her. Now, I'm not saying that she was Mother of the Year, because according to what I read, you had some problems yourself. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Series of relationships that went nowhere?
No, ma'am.
Well, according to your daughter, that's true, that your husband was killed?
Yes, sir.
And that after your husband, you had a series of relationships?
I've had 2.
That were in some way abusive and or alcoholic?
That's why he's gone.
Well, it doesn't make any difference.
Yes,
it was
you're
there
right.
with your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was growing up, so she was involved with it. So what I'm saying to you is you have to understand that nothing is perfect. People do make mistakes.
That's right.
What I'm suggesting to you is the only focus for me right now is the 6-year-old who has one constant that's no longer in her life, taken away abruptly. She has to share her mother with a sibling, which is very often traumatic for a young child, even a young child who hasn't had the kind of history that your daughter has had. And she also shares that child with a pseudo-stepchild, because you're not married to him. So that's not a stepchild, but it's somebody that comes over periodically. Plus you work part-time, so you got a full plate. He doesn't sound like a terrible guy, but a self-acknowledged bad temper, right? Yeah. And he says he has a bad temper when he's helping the children out with their schoolwork and they don't seem to get what he's telling them, so he has a tendency to yell. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I assume that your 9-month-old doesn't go to school.
Not yet.
So I assume that the child that you're referring to is Jasmine.
Mostly I was referring to my son.
Well, he's not with you Monday through Friday to help with his schoolwork.
Actually, Your
tried to
Honor,
help
sometimes he is.
Sometimes is not all the time. Jasmine lives there full time.
I was referring to my son. Jasmine, I tried.
It certainly doesn't say that here. So she's got a very full plate, your daughter. And I'm not going to get involved with whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea for you not to let her continue to see her grandmother. I don't have enough information. Off the top of my head, I would say it's a tragic mistake for her. This is the one constant that she's had in her life, because you've had several different men. You've had her father, you've had Joe, you've had Tom, you've had Jason, you've had whoever in your life. And one constant she has is your maternal family. And if you cut them off, I think that that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
But I see no malice in your mother's phone call. Go ahead.
May I say something? I haven't cut her off from my complete family. My grandmother had 14 children, and I'm very close with all of them.
Okay.
And if I could say one more thing else, my grandmother done this exact same thing to my mother and my Aunt Becky. And there was no reason then, and there's no reason now, is the way I look at it.
Well, as I said to you, I don't get the sense that there was a malicious intent on the part of your mother, and it's very possible that your daughter did say to her, I can't tell you, because then Mommy said, I can't see you anymore. That makes sense to me. That was in your mom's answer. I can't tell you what's going on because Mom says I can't see you anymore. And I can hear that conversation. You know, if you're going to talk to Grandma about what goes on in the house, I'm not going to let you see her anymore.
I would never say that.
It's sort of interesting for her to at least attribute that to the child, whether you said it or whether you didn't. It's not a good idea for you to inquire about what's going on in the house. That puts your granddaughter, if you do, in a very difficult situation. In any event, I assume that you will work out whether or not you see your granddaughter between the two of you. As I said, I think it's probably not in your daughter's best interest not to see her grandmother, but I see nothing malicious about the phone call to Child Protective Services.
She has been malicious as far as to the people in my community. I live in a small town. I grew up in that town, and that whole town thinks nothing but bad about me and Jason now. She's told people that Jason's molested Jasmine.
I have never, ever accused him of molestation.
That should be on,
I have
on
never.
that report.
They asked me if I thought that might be the case, and I said, I don't really know. That's something I can't say because that's nothing that was
She's a
brought
6-year-old
up.
child who has a yeast infection, according to the reports. And for somebody who may not be schooled, they may not know how you develop a yeast infection, but certainly sexually transmitted disease is one possibility.
Your Honor, my doctor told me that yeast infections are caused in little girls by sitting in a soapy bathtub.
That's possible.
It is very possible.
No, it's possible, but I will tell you now that for a 6-year-old to have a yeast infection who does not have a history of taking antibiotics, which sometimes causes that for a long period of time, might be problematic for a grandmother. She says she's never made those statements. I have nobody here to counter that, but I see nothing in the history of this case that suggests to me that she made any calls maliciously. So your case is dismissed.
Yeah, this is case number 343 on the calendar in the matter of Krill versus Krill. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Jennifer, this is your stepmom,
Yes, ma'am.
and you are no longer married to her father. Is that right? You are
Yes,
now
ma'am.
divorced. How long were you married to Jennifer's father?
18 years.
Jennifer, you came back to live with your stepmom. You have a child.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is your child?
She's 3.
So you came back to live with your mom when you were 16
Yes.
with the baby.
Yes.
Where had you been living?
In El Paso, Texas with my real mom.
And that didn't work out, so you came back to
Live with
your
her, correct.
stepmom. Your complaint is that your stepmother has a car that belongs to you.
Correct.
And she says she does not. It is her car. I gather there was a time when you were 16 or 17 that your stepmother gave you her car to drive, and you totaled it.
Right.
And then what did you do?
What do you mean?
Well, you got some money, according to your complaint. You asked your biological mother for some money.
Oh, yes.
And she sent you some money, and you put it in the bank.
Right.
And you and your stepmother went out shopping for a
Right.
car, according to you, purchased this car, which your
Right.
stepmother put in her name.
Right.
That's the car we're looking to retrieve.
Right.
So, when you went to buy the car, you were 17?
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of discussion did you have with your stepmother about the car?
We really didn't have a discussion. I mean, she told me that we were going to buy me a car because she didn't have any money to afford to replace the other one. And then she did the transaction. I handed her the $800, in front of the man that we bought it from, and then I walked away. She never consulted me about putting her name on the title. She just, I guess, put her name on it. So, I mean, I have the bill of sales. I have a bank statement from that day.
Okay, no, there's no question. The money came from your stepdaughter.
Yeah, but she's not telling the story right.
Okay, so I'm listening to you.
She never gave me the $800. She went and took care of that. Jennifer also took care of all the title work and registration, and she's the one that put my name on that title.
No, I did not.
I never went to the license bureau to do that. She took care of all of that.
Why would she put your name on the title? Maybe because she was a minor?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think she totaled my car in early May. The Neon was bought probably 3 weeks after that.
Ms. Krill, she has received a gift from her biological mother for the purpose of purchasing a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think this car belongs to you?
Because we discussed it. It was supposed to be, she's the one that took care of the paperwork. If she really believed that it was her car, why did she put my name on the title?
Now just a second, that's not my question. Why do you believe it's your car? Don't tell me what's going through Jennifer's mind.
I never said it belonged to me. I said it belonged to us.
Well,
and
then
it
how
was
do you
discussed
expect
that she was replacing the Cougar that she totaled?
Her mother didn't send her money to replace your car.
No, ma'am, she did not.
Right. Her mother sent her money to buy a car for herself so she would have a car. She's 17 years old. Sometimes teenagers have problems. But you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When your child is 15, 16, 17 years old and they have an accident with the car, it's just part of parenting. They don't replace it.
I didn't ask her to replace the car, though. The car was put in both of our names for it to be our car so we could share it.
You can't share an $800 car. And she's not living with you anymore. So what do you want to do?
We live a mile from each other.
You can't share the car. It's impossible. Who has the title?
I do.
Can I see
I
it,
have the
please?
receipt to the title.
You don't have the title. You have a receipt. I want to see the title.
Okay.
Okay. Have her sign. Okay. Right over there, Ms. Krill. That's going to take care of the car. Sign it. Okay. Bird, would you give it over to the plaintiff, please? All right, that takes care of that. Now, I'm going to take care of all this property stuff. What kind of property do you claim that you have at your stepmother's house, and why did you leave it there?
Well, I have a couch that my aunt gave me. I have a bed that my grandmother gave me, a radio flyer, a radio tricycle. I have all my shoes.
That's for the baby?
Right. Those are her toys, and amongst several other toys that she has there. And
Well,
the reason why it
why didn't you take those things when you left?
Because I was sent to Texas. I mean, I couldn't pack everything.
What do you mean
on
you
the
were
plane.
sent to Texas? When were you sent to Texas?
I was sent there July 11th because they said that I couldn't live in their house anymore. So.
You mean your stepmom said you couldn't live there anymore?
Right. Well,
Why? What were you doing?
She told me that I had to go to Texas. I had to face my past and stand up to my real mother. I mean, I didn't understand why she was sending me. I still don't understand why she sent me.
She's going to tell me why she sent you. There had to be something that you're not understanding, but that I have a feeling I'm going to understand. Go ahead.
She was sent back to Texas at that time because I was on medical leave and because she was getting into some trouble that I couldn't handle. I told her to go back to Texas to deal with things that were going on, to step up because she needs to be a mother.
To her child?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a mother to my child. I think I am a very good mother to my child. I've never hurt her. I mean, I don't understand why she's saying that.
Well, let me ask you this question. You've never hurt her?
No.
Do you think that you surround her with the appropriate people all the time?
Yes, I do.
Just think about my question very carefully. Where's her father?
He is in Texas. He's no longer in my child's life, nor has he never been.
Does he pay support for her?
No, he doesn't.
Why not?
He just doesn't. He's in prison.
Well, that's a reason. That's a reason for him not to pay support is because he's in jail. What is he in jail for?
Statutory rape.
Of?
Me.
Of you. Is that one of the reasons you didn't get along with your biological mother?
Yes, it was.
Did they pursue that against him?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Okay. Your stepmother says that you were getting into some difficulty with your daughter, that she found her in a circumstance that she wasn't happy with. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't understand. I don't know what circumstance you'll be talking about because...
Well, maybe she'll tell me. Go ahead.
She was dating boys that had no business being around the grandbaby. I actually had to extract her from the home of one twice within a month's period.
What was wrong with them?
He beat on the baby, for one.
How do you know that?
He left marks on her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Yes, he was one of my boyfriends
She admitted that he hit her.
because she had an accident in her pants. I didn't agree with it. I didn't say, oh, well, that's okay.
So when I asked you whether your daughter was around inappropriate people, the answer was yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Jennifer Krill says her stepmother, Kim Krill, won't return her vehicle. Kim says Jennifer should think of it as compensation for wrecking her car.
Did you ask Jennifer about the marks?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She admitted that he hit her.
Is that right?
What happened was, from another instance, that when I was in Texas, yes, he was one of my boyfriends. I came to live with him. I mean, he was nice until, like, he told me to get out of his house. And then the reason why he hit her was because she had an accident in her pants. I didn't agree with it. I didn't say, oh, well, that's okay. I got my stuff, I packed my bags, and then I called my real mother in Texas, and that's when she came and got me.
Jennifer, so when I asked you whether your daughter was around inappropriate people, the answer was yes.
Oh, I didn't think that she was stating that. I thought, excuse me, she was stating of my stay right now. And how
I'm talking
staying
about
right now.
then. I want to know why you were sent back to Texas.
I was
Your
on
stepmother is on...
In December?
No, in July.
She's been sent back twice.
Okay.
That's why I
Well,
was
anyway,
talking
that's
about-
when you were sent back the last time. It was in July.
Right.
And you didn't take all of your stuff because you thought you were coming back.
Right.
Do you have her couch?
Yeah.
You have her bed?
Yeah. I would like to say, though, that when she arrived back in Hobart, she called and said she was coming to get her stuff, and she did come and get a lot of stuff. It was her choice that she did not come back and get it. I never denied her that stuff.
Okay.
She didn't.
Do you
but-
want... It's going to be easy.
Okay.
What stuff do you want now?
Mainly, I want my car, and I do want my couch and my bed, but I don't have.
Well, listen, Jennifer, you can't have it both ways. If you want your couch and your bed and the baby's toys, make arrangements to pick that up in 5 days. Fine. It'll be put out. It'll be waiting for you. You'll get a storage space. Fine. But she's not going to act as a storage facility for you until you decide what you want to do. The car you now have. Do you understand?
Okay.
Car is yours.
Okay.
You have it. You want to forget about the rest of the stuff?
No.
Well, do you want it?
Yes, I do.
She's asking to take stuff that was the grandbaby's that I actually bought her, and the grandbaby still comes to my house.
Does?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're talking about the tricycle?
That was bought for her birthday and for Christmas.
Okay. I'm glad that she still comes to the house.
I adore my grandbaby.
How often does she come to the house?
I haven't really got to see her a lot lately, maybe once a week.
Where are you living now?
I live with my friends in Hobart, Indiana.
What friends?
Eric, Willie, and Jay.
You live in a house with 3 men?
Yes, I do.
What do they do for a living?
They put up billboards.
What do you do?
I stay home. I don't work right now.
What are you going to do with the couch and the bed?
I'm going to get a storage room until I can rent my own apartment to put it in.
You still are getting along reasonably well with your stepmother?
I would say so.
I like that. That's very smart. Your daughter needs that.
I know that. That's
A
why I
lot.
allow her to see her.
A lot. So I have a sense, and I'm going to ask her, she's not quite ready for the couch and the bed right now. Any chance of you holding on to it?
I told her before that she was more than welcome to keep her stuff there until she could find a room.
Fine. Then we have no problem with that. And we've resolved the car. Continue to be smart, Jennifer. Continue to let her be a part of that baby's life, because I have a sense that that is going to be one of the stable things in your daughter's life, at least for a while.
I understand that.
Okay, very good. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's not stepping up to her responsibilities and doing what she's supposed to do.
I would like to make amends with her.
Just to be a good mom to her daughter, that's all I want her to do.
If she would like to see me in her life as well as my granddaughter, I mean, I'm more than willing to do so.
Your Honor, this is case number 139 on the calendar in the matter of Stapp versus Bird. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
You two ladies are related by marriage.
That's correct.
Yes.
Your son is married to your daughter,
Yes,
who's not here today.
that's true.
According to this complaint, the kids are divorcing, and they have 3 children. How old are your grandchildren?
5, 4, and 2.
Is there a court order of visitation now for your son?
Yes, there is.
I assumed that there was, and in the papers it says that he has supervised visitation. Is that right?
That's correct.
Step up here, sir. Why do you have supervised visitation?
It's just what the court ordered.
Was there a hearing in the family court before supervised visitation was ordered?
Yes, ma'am. There is a domestic violence issue.
So it's because of the domestic violence issue that supervised visitation was ordered, and you're supposed to supervise the visitation.
That's correct.
So according to this complaint, that on April 18th of this year, your son had the 3 children unsupervised.
That's correct.
And there was an altercation when he returned the children. You came with your daughter to pick up the children
That's correct.
and sprayed mace.
Yes. Only on Mike.
Well, you say only on Michael, but inadvertently perhaps
Yeah.
it hit the plaintiff and it caused her some severe burning. And that's what you're suing for.
That's correct. But that's not what happened.
So let's start at the beginning. What were you doing with the children unsupervised?
Me and Lori had a verbal agreement that it'd be all right that I'd take the kids without my mom for the day.
To a barbecue.
Where were you going?
We went to a barbecue.
And you had discussed this with Lori before?
Yes, ma'am.
Lori's your wife?
Wife, yes.
Your hours of visitation end at 6 o'clock, according
Yes.
to these papers.
Yes.
But you didn't bring the children home at 6 o'clock.
No, I called from the barbecue and asked her if it'd be all right if I returned a couple hours late, which was at 8 o'clock, and that's what time I arrived.
Had you been drinking?
I had 1 beer at the barbecue.
You're not supposed to have any beers at the barbecue if you're with your children. Right?
Yes.
So you were bringing your children back, and she was supposed to pick the children up at your mother's house.
Yes.
Brought the kids back to your mother's house, and now you're going to tell me what happened.
I was in bed because I had to get up at 5 to go to work, and I heard noise coming from my garage, and I got up to go see what had happened, and I saw my daughter-in-law, Lori, pulling the children out of my son's car, which was also inside my garage, and they were having a verbal argument, and I asked them to stop. My grandchildren were crying. My youngest granddaughter had walked around the back of the car, and I had picked her up and was comforting her, and I was on the other side of my 2-car garage from the adults that were having the argument.
The adults were just your son and your daughter-in-law?
Correct. Then I saw Lorraine out in her car, which was parked out on my sidewalk. She had followed Lori in her car, I don't know why. And I was thinking, oh good, Lorraine can come up and take the grandchildren from me and just let Lori and Michael do their bickering, because they were just verbally arguing. When I went to turn to hand her Anna, my granddaughter.
How old is Anna?
2. That's when she sprayed me right in the face. And she intentionally did that because she also sprayed the back of my brand new car. And I had Anna in my arms when she did that. I have a police report here of what had happened. I also have a doctor's report here of the severity of the burns themselves.
Where on your face were you burned?
I was burned all the way down here, and it caused blisters. My nose was bleeding for like 2 weeks. It wouldn't stop because of the burns in this side of my nose. And this eye, it hit my eye just a little bit, which was really good because I had a severe reaction to the spray itself.
So what happened after you were sprayed?
After I was sprayed, I went back in the house and tried to rinse it out. I called the emergency room immediately because that's where I work. And they told me to call poison control, which I did. And they said the same thing, just rinse it as much as you can. And that's what I kept doing.
Were the police called?
The police were called immediately.
Who called the police?
Michael did. And they actually got the whole argument on 911 tape because he dialed 911 immediately and laid the phone down in the garage. And then Lorraine got 2 of the children in her car and attempted to leave, and my son got in front of her car to stop her from leaving because we wanted the police to come. When the police arrived, they said that they could arrest her on the scene for what she had done because not only did she spray myself and put my grandchildren in danger, she sprayed my son Michael and his date, who is also listed on there. then the police talked to us, and then the police talked to Lorraine, and they told us to think about it for a while because it was a family matter, and we don't want to have this any worse than what it's been.
So tell me why you got involved with this return of the children.
Well, my daughter's divorcing him, as you know, and there's a restraining order because he has constantly stalked her. And he was arrested in March for stalking, terrorist, and 4 felonies. And this man will not leave her alone. And the only reason I went in there with the pepper spray is because I was afraid for their life. Those children were getting hurt. They were getting knocked on the ground.
Tell me what happened. Tell me your version of what happened.
My daughter called me and said he was drinking at a barbecue. He refused to bring the kids home. He didn't want to leave the party. He was having too much fun.
Okay. But he brought the children home at 8 o'clock. Is that right?
Well, he was a little bit late.
According to this, he was 15 minutes late, according to these papers. So he brought the children home approximately on time. And you waited in your car.
That's correct.
So you tell me, your daughter asked you to come just to be there for her, I assume.
Yes.
Tell me what you observed from the car. Make sure I hear the truth.
Okay, he pulled up in the car. He had the children in there and his girlfriend in the car. He pulled the car up into the driveway. He locked the children in the car, refused them to give them to my daughter, antagonizing her.
Slowly. He had the children in the car.
Yes, he did. And he says, maybe I'll give you the children and maybe I won't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Michael, was not a smart idea to have your girlfriend serve your wife with court papers.
It was the opportunity of her being there.
No, there's opportunity. She has 3 children. She's not going anywhere.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Linda Stapp says during her grandchildren's visitation, former in-law Lorraine Bird pepper sprayed her in the face. Lorraine says it was an accident.
Tell me what happened.
His girlfriend got out of the car and still left the children locked in the car. The children were wanting out, and she was wanting the children, and they couldn't get out of the car. And his girlfriend served her with a paper. I don't know what it was.
Contempt of court.
Contempt of court paper. And anyways.
Just a second. Your girlfriend gave your wife some papers.
Yes.
During this exchange of the children.
Yes.
And what were these court papers?
Contempt of court.
What kind of contempt of court?
Lori did not show up with the kids on 2 of my visitation days.
When was that?
A copy of the papers right here.
When was that, sir? He can talk for himself. He's a big boy. He made 3 babies.
I'm sorry.
All right.
The dates were March 21st, and the other date was April 4th.
So you served her with a contempt of the order of visitation for failing to bring the children?
Yes.
What's your first name?
Excuse me?
What's your first name?
Michael.
Michael. Was not a smart idea to have your girlfriend serve your wife with court papers.
I agree. I agree now. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I do agree.
No, because you were thinking out of anger. You were thinking about getting even or something. She's got a restraining order against you, so you wanted to do this little thing. This would really get her goat if your girlfriend served her with papers. Come on, Michael.
It was the opportunity of her being there.
No, there's opportunity. She has 3 children. She's not going anywhere. I mean, you can get a process server to serve her with papers. Okay. What were you doing with the pepper spray in your possession?
I keep it for when I have to go out after dark. I've never used it. That's the only time I've ever used it.
It was a mistake to use it.
I know that, Your Honor. He finally went in the house. He come out, opened the garage door, then Miss Stapp finally came out of the house. She sat on the ground, was smoking a cigarette the whole time this fight was going on. She did not do anything until I got out of the car. When I
you
walked
say there
up
was
there,
a fight, they were yelling at each other.
They were pulling the children apart. He was grabbing the top torso of my son, pulling his arms out of his socket.
Your grandson, you mean?
Yes.
Let's start, sir, with at the moment that you pulled up in the car, your wife was there waiting for the children. What were the first words that were passed between the 2 of you?
The first words were, I'm ready for the kids, can I have them now? I said, no, can you please wait? Let me pull my car in the garage and get their stuff out of the house, and then you can take them home.
Okay. She asked you for the children.
Yes.
You said no.
Yes. I said, could you please wait a minute and let me pull my car into the garage and get their stuff, because we had their overnight bags or their day bags, and I wanted to get all their stuff and get it all out to them at once.
Michael, this is all a question of control. You understand that, Mrs. Stapp, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I mean, let's try to make the two grandmothers at least be reasonable.
Yes.
She says, let me have the children. You say, no, when I'm ready. I'm going to leave them in the car now. First, I'm going to go get their bags. Could have been just as easy to say, take the kids, put them in your car, and I'll go in and get their stuff, and I'll bring it out to the car, to your car, right?
Yes.
But your girlfriend had papers to serve on her. Now, were the papers in your girlfriend's possession, or were they in the house?
They were in the house.
So when you went into the house, you weren't only getting the children's stuff, you were also getting the papers that your girlfriend had to serve, right?
Yes.
See, it's all coming together. You're not supposed to use the opportunity of exchanging children during visitation to serve papers or for any other purpose. The exchange of children is difficult enough during a divorce, during a separation, so that you're supposed to do everything that you can to minimize the trauma of going from one parent to another. You didn't do that, Michael.
No.
That doesn't excuse what you did.
I know that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have medical bills?
Yes, I do.
And he also broke my daughter's finger in the process.
Well, your daughter's not here.
I know. She wanted to be here on my behalf, but she was so terrified of this man. She is so scared of him. Thursday night, he tried to run her and the kids off the road.
Well, I don't know that since she's not here.
Yeah.
Miss Bird,
This is an item I
all I can tell you is that these two people... How old were you when you got married, Michael?
I was 20 years old.
And how old was your daughter?
She was 20.
So they were two very young people who got married and made 3 children right away. And it looks to me, unless you two grandmothers get your acts in gear, they're going to make these 3 grandchildren emotional cripples over this stuff. You know, bottom line is, if he has certain faults, and I'm not saying he does, Miss Bird,
Yes.
but if he does have certain faults, your daughter picked him. And not only did she pick him, she made one child with him, she made another child with him, and she made another child with him. And he's going to be their father for as long as they live. Right?
Right.
So they have to make peace with each other. And if they're not grown up enough to make peace with each other, at least the two grandmothers would seem to me to contrive to give the children some comfort, some, you know, emotional structure, rather than fighting with each other. It's ridiculous.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Right now, you have to swallow your pride, you have to swallow your ego, and you have to do what the court tells you to. So if the judge says to you, jump, you say, how high do I have to jump to see my children?
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Linda Stapp wants medical bills plus pain and suffering from Lorraine Bird for pepper spraying her face. Lorraine says it was an accident.
Were you friendly with each other before this happened?
Yeah, we got along for the children and for the family's sake.
That's what you're supposed
There
to
was
do.
no bickering or fighting. But as it stands right now, when we went to court yesterday, she lost all of her visitation rights. Mike has none.
She lost all
She violated the visitation.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Again, Your Honor. They have no respect for the law.
You mean they violated it because she didn't supervise the visitation?
That's right.
Your Honor, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I'm already filing a motion because we did arrive at the courthouse yesterday and Michael became very sick and we had to leave. The judge is aware of that and we're filing a motion to take care of that.
Okay. The problem is the judge has directed in that family court proceeding, I'm reading between the lines based upon my experience, that the only way that he can see his 3 children, because of whatever history the judge knows about, is if You supervised the visitation.
Which I do.
Well, you clearly didn't at this time.
Not on this day, but it was agreed.
I'm not sure it was agreed. Two parties cannot agree to overrule a judicial determination. The judge has made a determination based upon the best interest of the children. Judge has made a determination that some other person be there to supervise and had enough confidence in you.
Right.
To say that other person was supposed to be you.
Right.
So at least on this occasion, and according to Ms. Bird on other occasions, your son saw the children, unsupervised by you, as a result of which he's now lost, albeit temporarily, his right to see his children, which is traumatic for him, but also very traumatic for the children.
Right.
I'm sure it is very traumatic for the children, Ms. Bird.
I know that.
You know, I can understand that you feel as if they're my kids and I should be able to see them whenever I want to see them. But right now you have to swallow your pride, you have to swallow your ego, and you have to do what the court tells you to, because your children shouldn't feel as if you've abandoned them.
Right.
I agree.
And at their age, they won't understand this business about supervised, not supervised. All they will know is that their daddy doesn't see them anymore. So if the judge says to you, jump, you say, how high do I have to jump to see my children?
And I agree to do everything possible.
Yeah, well, stop telling me you agreed to do everything. You did a lot of things wrong, Michael. And your mother knows you did a lot of things wrong. But she looks like a nice lady. And so do you.
Thank you.
But you two ladies, I certainly hope can get it together. And even if you have to say to yourselves, listen, our kids have made their mistakes. I'm not going to take sides. I just want to be there for my grandchildren because they're the only innocents.
They're my #1 priority.
Well, they're supposed to be. Because he's cooked already. And if he's got certain problems, which only his mother knows, right, Mr. Stapp? He's got certain problems, he's going to have to deal with them. He made 3 children, he's supposed to be a good father.
And he is.
Well, I worry about that. Because he's done certain things that I hear about just today that show me that he lacks good judgment.
Well, there's problems on both sides.
I'm sure there are problems on both sides,
Yeah.
but this clearly is a lack of good judgment. Leaving your kids in the car to go inside to get copies of court papers so that your girlfriend can serve them on your wife during exchange of visitation when you're late anyway is not smart.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Are you in a family dispute? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
How long were you out of work?
I missed 1 full day, which was the next day because of pepper spray in my eye, I couldn't see. And then I missed I worked 12-hour shifts in the emergency room. So
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a unit assistant.
What does that mean?
I do everything an RN does, but I don't do injections.
You're the adults, they're the children. Unfortunately, the children had children. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Thank you,
Parties
Your
are
Honor.
excused. You may step out.
Could I have my picture?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Well, I think she was fair. My only alternative was to get out of the car and try to get those children away from him.
I think what I did was kind of unfair to the kids and also Lori. I believe that I could have done things different instead of what I did do.
A 23-year-old student, Alexander Moon, is suing former friend, 23-year-old John Mohan, for destroying a designer couch after a night of heavy drinking.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 23 on the calendar in the matter of Moon versus Mohan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
He invited you to a party
Correct.
at your house.
Correct.
And I assume from your papers that this is your roommate.
Yes.
And you had a great time at the party.
Incorrect.
Well, you must have had a pretty good time at the party because you got blotto drunk, according to the papers, his complaint and your answer. You fell asleep on and then relieved yourself on his couch.
True.
Ruining the couch.
I assume so.
You want the money for the couch?
Yes.
You've paid him $1,000.
Slightly over $1,000.
How slightly?
Yeah, I haven't calculated. It's something like $1,025.
And you want more?
Yes, the remainder plus aggravation and...
Listen, everybody's aggravated. I'm aggravated. Bird's aggravated. Everybody's aggravated. But you don't want to aggravate me. That would be a very bad thing to do. So let's just talk about the couch.
Mm-hmm.
How much more do you want for the couch?
Subtracting his $1,000, it would be roughly $2,300.
Show me the bill for the couch.
I have it right here. The total being $3,139.
Let me see.
And it's right there.
So to completely redo this couch, reupholstery padding, cost you $3,100.
Correct.
You must have had a lot to drink.
I certainly did.
So now, tell me your defense to this additional $2,000.
I'm confused on a number of issues, but first of all, Gene, Alex's roommate, said it was going to cost roughly $3,000. I gave him $140 in cash, which I have a bank receipt for. I bought him a microwave oven on a credit card for $173 and some change. I did 1 day's work for him, helping him move his mother's apartment or something like that, which he said the fee would be $50 that he would deduct. And I also rented a budget truck to help him with that, which was approximately $50. And so that totaled somewhere around $400. He wanted more quickly. There was no way I could raise it. He insisted that I call my father to try and get the money from him. Gene and my father spoke over the telephone. My father said he was not going to pay $3,000. I guess Alex and my father spoke. My father said that they're being ridiculous in their demands, that he was going to handle this. Apparently, Alex agreed upon a sum of $625 because I have a check here for $625, a photocopy of a check. The note says, for John's accident, paid in full, written 1/30/98.
Can I see it?
You certainly can. And Alex cashed that check and signed it on the bottom, ostensibly to give to Gene. Now, I don't understand why Alex is suing me since it was Gene's property that was damaged. I further don't understand if the couch was so expensive that Gene insisted I sleep on that couch instead of the less expensive couch, which was downstairs. This couch was in Gene's room.
I could explain that, Your Honor.
It doesn't make any difference because nobody, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Because nobody anticipates that a 23-year-old man is going to pee all over a couch. So it didn't make any difference, sir, whether you slept on the upstairs couch or the downstairs couch. It's not something, we usually don't put a nappy on somebody who's 23. When his father sent you this check, did you see a notation, paid in full?
It was on the bottom of the check, it said payment for the couch, and he said to me on the phone that he wanted this to be final, and I said, sorry, sir, but it won't be because there is more money owed. And he may believe that that was the final payment, but I had warned him that it wouldn't be because it was going to incur, as you can see on the invoice, additional money.
That's not what I asked.
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's not what I asked you. So what you're saying is you saw the notation on the bottom of this memo that said, for John's accident, payment in full. You saw that?
Yes.
Then you should have returned the check.
It was my responsibility to take care of this couch because it was my party and John was my guest. So that is why I had to, I'm a student, I'm in graduate school right now, I'm on an extremely limited budget. Any monies that come in, I had to use towards replacing this couch, because this couch had been put on a rush order. It was a gift for Jean's mother, and John had agreed the morning of the accident that yes, indeed, he would pay for it in full, and he has.
Did you agree to that, sir?
I said I would try and pay. I said we'd have to work out some sort of installment plan because I could not raise that $3,000 that quickly.
Mr. Mohan.
Yes.
You think it's reasonable that he should be out of pocket $2,000 for your accident?
I think it's unreasonable that he. First of all.
No. Do you think it's reasonable that he should be out an additional $2,000 for your accident? Do you think it's fair?
I paid what was agreed upon. Now, if he.
Just a second.
Yes.
When was this couch purchased, sir?
This couch was purchased in August of last year, one before, and I had it reupholstered in handmade linen to give to my mother. And there's a matching chair and ottoman that goes with it that does not match the couch anymore.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I sent him this check with a special notation. Having received and deposited the same.
Let me. There are a lot of does there. Huh? I don't like does, and I usually don't accept letters. But with all those does, I'm curious.
And later today.
Sir, listen to me.
Right.
Did you, how shall I put this in a genteel fashion? Did you finger gesture to him as you were passing him in the car?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alexander Moon says John Mohan, after a night of heavy drinking, seriously damaged roommate Jean Yee's designer couch.
Does your mother have the couch now?
The couch is waiting for the chair and the ottoman because after we had it redone, the batch of the linen, the new batch of linen that we got does not match now the chair and ottoman, so I have to pay out of my own pocket to match the chair and ottoman.
And then it's going to your mom?
It's gonna, yeah, and then it's gonna cost a little bit more, but I have not asked John Mohan to pay that. I also talked to John's father, and the reason it says paid in full is because John's father said that that is all we're gonna get out of him. And the reason I insisted on John paying full amount is because it's his responsibility, not his father's. And it's also a Philip Morris couch, brand new, to replace it. That's just to refurbish it. The couch is $9,400. The chair and ottoman is close to $6,000.
God, I never owned such an expensive piece of furniture. I wouldn't let anybody even sit on it, no less
They
somebody
weren't
was
allowed
drunk.
in my room. I did not insist him to be up there.
That's untrue. We were allowed in his room.
Listen,
yes.
Stop making excuses.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to refute.
Well, so let's get down to my question.
Certainly.
You think it's fair that either one of these two gentlemen should be any more out of pocket than they already are because you couldn't control your bladder?
I don't think it's fair. No.
Well, that's what's supposed to happen in a court. What's supposed to happen in a court is what's fair.
Well, first of all, I have here, my father could not be a witness today because he's in Boston. But I have here that what he told me from their conversation is that having received this check, I sent him this check with a special notation. I specifically pointed out to Alex Moon that I will not send any more money to him or anyone else, including Jean, if the $625 is cash. He agreed and cashed the check. Having received and deposited the same.
Let me. There are a lot of does there. Huh? I don't like does, and I usually don't accept letters. But with all those does, I'm curious. Dear son. No, there's no question that if I called his father, according to this letter, his father would say that he considered his $625 payment in full. I, however, am considering it payment in full by his father.
Exactly.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Because, Mr. Mohan.
Yes.
I think it is totally irresponsible of you to even question the fact that you damaged this man's property. This man's property. It's going to end up costing him far more than the additional $2,000 that he's requesting because he has to have 2 other pieces of furniture reupholstered. He's not asking to be compensated for that, although he very well could ask to be compensated for that. But it seems to me a 23-year-old man should take responsibility for what he does. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You know, I'm still taking a loss from this. I'm still feeling the effects of, you know, something that John had done.
It severed a relationship, it strained our relationship, and I'm glad that it's finally over and we don't have to see him anymore.
Our friendship is essentially finished.
And now the next case.
Parties on Show TV a Lot versus Valentine. Step forward, please.
Loretta Shotivia-Rott and her 20-year-old daughter, Teresa, are suing Tim and Cynthia Valentine for kicking their car in a fit of road rage.
Who were the drivers of these two cars?
That would be Ramtin Mogadam.
So you can sit down. You step up here. Sit down. You were driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Is your wife?
Yes.
Have a seat. Okay. Who are you?
I own the car.
But you weren't there?
No.
Okay. You were driving, according to your complaint, your girlfriend's car.
Right.
That's your girlfriend.
Right. All right.
But she doesn't own the car. It's her mother's car.
Right.
You didn't know this gentleman. You're tooling along. He's tooling along, driving with his wife.
Right.
And you get into one of those male macho things on the road. So why don't you start from the beginning and tell me where you were going and what happened, sir?
I was going back to her house and pulled up behind him at the light, and he pulled through the light, and then he pulled into the shoulder. I guess I was too close behind him, and so I passed. And then he got out behind me again, and he started flashing his lights and followed me for like a mile, flashing his lights and like staying close, like turning everywhere I turned. And so I pulled over before I got to her house because I was afraid, you know, I didn't know who it was or what was going on. So pulled over, and then he kind of like parked in front of the car like to block it. And he came out of the car and he was like, you know, swearing and stuff and threatening me. So I got out and to like calm him down because he was like right there. And
what was he saying to you, sir? When he got out of the car?
he said he was sick of like these kids driving around here thinking they're cool. And I said, I don't know, you know, I hadn't ever seen him before. And so then I like offered my hand to shake his hand, and he said he wasn't gonna shake my hand. And so I kind of said something rude, and then he came, kicked the door, and jumped in his car and took off.
And that's what this lawsuit is about, because he kicked the door of the car and there was damage to the car.
Right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Ooh, you were really angry.
I must have a big foot.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Loretta Shotivia-Rott and her 20-year-old daughter, Teresa, are suing Tim and Cynthia Valentine for kicking their car in a fit of road rage.
Your turn.
Your Honor, my wife and I were coming home from dinner, driving on a two-lane road. This gentleman approached at a high rate of speed, flashed his lights, honked his horn, and went by and waved his IQ, as I wrote in my report, I believe, giving us the finger. And
so you were driving and he wanted to pass you. You weren't going fast enough. Is that what you're saying?
well, we were doing the speed limit. I think it's 25 in the area. It's actually 30. Yeah, 25 or 35 in the area. And so when he went by and did all this, I said to myself and to my wife, I said, you know, I'm sick of this. So we followed him, flashed my lights to get him to pull over, got out of the car. We exchanged some words. My wife got out of the car with me. And
did your wife get out of the car to help you or to stop you?
Yeah, stop him.
Miss Valentine, you don't have to answer that question. You want to know why you don't have to answer that question?
Why?
Because I already know. Right?
Right.
Because you said to him, forget it, don't do it. Right?
Right.
Men have replaced wars with road rage. They somehow consider it an affront to their manhood. Right? If somebody cuts them off or not going fast enough or whatever. Okay. So now you're both out of the cars. And your wife got out of the car to calm you down.
Perhaps.
Oh.
Perhaps.
Shh. Hey.
Sorry. So we continued to exchange verbiage. Thinking it was all done, we returned in the vehicle to leave. At that time, he made a couple of remarks to me about
being an old white man, which got me a little bit upset. Went back to the door and confronted him face to face. He's sitting in the car. At this time, he's swinging the door open to get out, and I put my foot up to block the door, and I guess this is where $1,100 of damage took place.
Did you, how shall I put this in a genteel fashion, did you finger gesture to him
No,
as
I
you
did
were
not.
passing him in the car?
I didn't even know why he was pulling over. I didn't even realize I was following him that closely. We were at a stoplight. We had just passed through the stoplight.
Not sure about that. In any event, how old are you?
I'm 21.
And how old are you?
49.
In retrospect, sir, this was a very foolish thing to do, right? You want to know why? Because he looks like a nice young man, 21 years old, but he could have been one of those nut jobs who has a gun in the glove compartment or a knife, and which is why your wife came running out after you. So, I mean, you took a risk. And there's one thing in taking a risk for yourself. You took a risk for her. So that was a very foolish thing to do. Let me see the estimates for the car. You have any photographs of the car?
Yes, I do.
Ooh, you were really angry. Ooh.
I must have a big foot.
What?
I must have a big foot, I guess, according to the $1,100.
Ooh, did you see these pictures?
No.
Ooh.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Mr. Valentine, bottom line is you have to pay for the damage. You can't avoid paying for the damage. You did it, and you had no right to do it, and you shouldn't have been vigilante. But I want to talk to your wife for a second. Come up here. When you started to follow, when you saw that your husband started to follow him, what did you say to him? Do you remember?
Not exactly, but probably don't bother. He's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because I didn't know it was a male in the car.
She's right.
Because he didn't even see me, and I didn't give him a finger.
Listen to me, sir.
Right.
You know, this is a good lesson for you. He's got to pay this bill. But it's a good lesson for you that especially if you're driving somebody else's property,
Not to pull
you're
over.
supposed to be responsible with it. Right?
Right.
Good. The estimate is $1,023 for the car. Your lawsuit requests $1,100, but you're not really requesting $1,100. You're requesting what it's going to cost to fix it, right? Mm-hmm. You got it, $1,023. Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
The young man was very disrespectful. I guess it was, my fault for going up there.
I just think I shouldn't have pulled over at all. I should have just lost him.
I couldn't believe that someone could act so irrational.
Be careful, there's a lot of crazies out there.
For breaking her lease.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 79 on the calendar in the matter of Thurman versus Cardenas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mrs. Thurman, you and your family were renting an apartment or a house from the defendant.
Yes, a house.
According to your complaint, when you rented this house, the defendant left a pool table there, and there was an understanding between the two of you that she would come and pick it up at some point.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you claimed that she had someone, I assume that that's this gentleman here, without notifying you, come into the house
Yes.
to pick up the pool table.
Mm-hmm.
And this is your son?
That's my son.
And he was the one who was home.
Yes, he was.
So step up here, sir. Tell me your name.
Teron Bailey Thurman.
Where were you when he came into the house?
I was asleep on the floor in front of the TV.
So you were asleep in front of the television?
Yeah, I'm asleep in front of the TV, and I awake to find two gentlemen behind me. And I mean, of course, I'm scared. You know, my immediate questions are, who are you and what are you doing here?
And what did they say? What did this gentleman say?
This gentleman was basically like, well, we came to get the pool table. Carol sent us.
And did you know who he was talking about?
Yeah, I knew he was talking about Carol. The thing is, I asked him how he got in, and he said that Carol gave them keys. And I was like, okay. They proceeded to take the pool table apart. They asked to go see upstairs for some measurements for some windows in my mom's office.
Once they told you that they were there to pick up the pool table for Carol, and once you were comfortable enough, so when they said they wanted to go measure some stuff upstairs for the windows,
I led them upstairs.
You knew what they were talking about, measuring the stuff for the windows? So you knew that. So after your initial fright of waking up and finding these two people in your house, then after that you figured that they were there legitimately.
I mean, yeah, they seemed, I mean, to seem to be real, you know?
Right.
I mean.
Now, so they went up together to measure?
Yeah.
And what were you doing?
I stood in the doorway.
Which doorway?
The doorway of the room that they measured. There were two windows in the room.
So you accompanied them upstairs?
Right.
And then where did you go?
I led them back downstairs, and they started taking the pool table apart.
Yes.
One gentleman kind of disappeared from my sight for a little bit. I mean, I really didn't pay much attention to it then, but, you know, hindsight is 20/20. He came back, you know, and they took the pool table out piece by piece. My mom calls, and she informed me that she didn't know anything about anyone coming there to get anything.
Right.
And basically, I'm like, well, you didn't know? And she's like, well, no. When did you let them in? How long have they been there? And I'm like, well, they were here when I woke up, you know, already getting started on things.
Okay. And then they loaded the pool table and they left?
Well, they talked to my mom on the phone a little while, and then they drove.
Left?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you know that you did the wrong thing by giving somebody the keys to the house without first contacting her. You know that?
Well, we contacted her by telephone.
You never spoke to her according to your papers?
No, we left a message.
Right. But you never spoke to her according to your answer?
James called, and I believe he did not speak to her.
Step up, please. You called and left a message?
Twice.
When did you call?
I called on Sunday around 10 a.m. and also Monday prior to coming out, which would have been 10 a.m.
So you never actually reached them on the phone?
No.
So it was a mistake, absolutely, until you make arrangements with them to give anybody the key to her home. Had you been paying rent up until that time?
Yes, she had.
Is she still living in your home?
Yes, she has. But she's not paying the rent, and she hasn't since March. Last payment was February.
I read that because you have a countersuit.
Yes.
Why haven't you paid rent?
She's been paid up, and only rent that she did not get was April and May. The reason I didn't pay for April and May because I felt like my privacy had been invaded. My things were stolen out of my house. She gave two strangers keys to my house. She did not know them. She didn't know them.
You can't withhold rent. You can't withhold rent.
Well, I wrote her a letter that I was going to move, and I was living off of my security in March.
Just a second. Miss Thurman, this happened in January.
She was paid.
Shh. This happened in January, correct?
Yes.
Good. And you say you paid her in February?
Yes, I did.
Correct?
Yes.
And you say you told her to use March, the security for March, correct?
That's correct.
And then you started to think about how angry you were. Let me see the police report where you reported to the police that things were stolen out of the house.
Well, you know what? Actually, the police told me, they said it couldn't file criminal report because there was not forced entry. That's exactly what they told me. The fact is that she gave somebody keys to my house, invaded my privacy. I got a teenage daughter with two men coming in. What if she would have been home? That's what I'm feeling about.
Well, she wasn't
And my
home.
things were gone.
Your Honor.
Just go ahead.
I will, you know, in hindsight, agree with you that I did make a mistake.
It was a mistake.
I agree.
Absolutely the wrong thing to do. Okay. What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a professional mover, ma'am.
And you were doing this as a favor for her?
No, she paid me to do
I
this.
hired
She hired me to do this. Their facts are close, but we did make entry to the house after knocking on the door repeatedly, went to the back, knocked on the back, and then we did come in.
Okay.
And,
It was a mistake.
Was a mistake. Her son jumped up, and immediately he asked us who we were, because I'm sure he was startled, I would be. And I told him what we were going to do. I provided him with a written authorization to remove the pool table, signed by Carol. And at that point, he was very at ease with us. I also knew that he was 18 because I asked him, and he started talking about college, and I just said, okay, well, we'll go ahead and stay here, because I was a little uneasy having a young man there. He took us upstairs, all the way into the room, to the windows. I made him point them out, because I didn't want to measure the wrong windows, and then we all came back downstairs, and my coworker and I started loading the pool table. And at the end, after it was loaded and I was outside, he brought the phone out with his mom on the phone. He actually had two phones in his hand. One he was talking to his girlfriend, the other one his mom, and said, here, you talk to her. I don't want to.
Just a second. There's noise out there. Would you please step outside? Thank you. Where's the TV in your house?
We have like 4 TV. We have like a TV in every room.
And how many VCRs?
At least 3.
Yeah, they're big things like this, right?
Yeah, the regular size VCRs.
Regular size VCRs.
Yes.
Yeah. And how big is the computer?
It's a laptop.
So it's also about so big, right?
Exactly.
Right. So you're claiming that they walked out with your 18-year-old son there with a VCR.
Yes, I am.
I don't believe you.
I'd like.
They were there.
You want to know why I don't believe you? Since this happened in January, you paid her February's rent, and you wrote her a letter that March rent was going to be paid off with your security.
That's right.
If in fact this wasn't a delayed reaction to non-paying rent, you wouldn't have paid her a dime in February, and you wouldn't have paid her anything for March. And yet you did. But now you're hanging over April and May and still not paying rent.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Mr. Chrysler, did you pay that money?
No. She broke off the relationship because she went out and had an affair.
What does that have to do with the $2,200?
Why should I pay her back for ruining my life?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sheila Thurman says her landlord, Carol Cardenas, gave her house keys to movers when they came to move a pool table. Sheila claims items are missing, and she's holding Carol responsible.
You are entitled to something for the fact that she allowed somebody else to come into your house, but I am finding that I am not satisfied that they stole anything out of your house. Period. So she has to pay you for some sort of inconvenience that you suffered and the fright of your son and for allowing somebody to come into your house without your permission. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for unpaid rent.
Yes.
Now, how much was the rent per month?
$2,400.
$2,400 a month. I am awarding you, Mrs. Thurman, $1,000 for your pain and suffering and startling. Do you understand? Yours. When are you planning to move out of this house?
The middle of June. I have been looking.
Just a second, please. She says the
I'm
middle
just
of
being
June.
honest. That's all.
She says the middle of June. I am going to assume that she will be there 3 months without paying rent. So that's $7,200. I'm deducting the $1,000 from that, which leaves $6,200. And I'm awarding you the maximum I can on your counterclaim, which is $5,000 for non-payment of rent. Do you understand?
Thank you.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think the judge is very unfair, and I think she's just as much of an idiot as this lady here for letting somebody take 2 keys and come into my home and invade my privacy and steal my belongings.
It's hard for me to accept the fact that she's getting any form of settlement. However, wholly I do feel justice has been done in terms of the fact that I will be getting settlement.
Judge Judy sees the truth.
Yeah.
And now the next case.
Parties on Ely versus Chrysler. Step forward, please.
36-year-old workman's comp claim agent Julia Ely claims her ex-fiancé, 35-year-old mechanic Daniel Chrysler, owes her for credit card bills and a motorcycle purchased while they were together. Daniel says she's the one who wanted the motorcycle.
You and the defendant were engaged to be married, and according to your complaint, he had a credit card on which there was a balance.
Yes.
What was the balance?
It was approximately $2,200.
And then he wanted a motorcycle, according to you.
Yes.
So you transferred the balance of his credit card to a new credit card that you had that had a zero balance.
Yes.
And you added on to that the motorcycle.
Yes.
And the motorcycle was in your name?
It was both of our names.
And then the engagement was broken?
Yes.
Yes,
Who took the motorcycle?
I did.
And did you make some payments on it?
No.
To her?
Prior to the breaking off of the engagement, yes, I did.
How many payments did you make?
6, approximately.
So for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And how much did you make in payments each month?
I'm not sure what the credit card balance was. For some reason, $80 a month, what the minimum payment was.
Okay. So, at least while you were together, you acknowledged this debt,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Then you broke up and you stopped paying. Why?
I initially did not want the motorcycle. I wanted it, but I couldn't afford it, and I knew it. And I told her this. I says, I can't afford it. I came home from work one day, and she says, I paid off your credit card and put it all on this card. Now you can get the motorcycle, and we'll write a check off of this credit card and do this.
But your credit card bill was your bill that you had been paying, I assume. I'm not talking about the motorcycle. I'm talking about your original credit card.
Correct. She also told me that if I gave the motorcycle back to her, she'd sell it to pay off that credit card.
Well, but even if she sold it, you still had a debt of $2,200.
That's what the selling of the motorcycle would cover, Your Honor.
No, sir. Listen to me. I'm not great in math. If you buy a motorcycle for $1,700, motorcycles don't appreciate in value. It means they don't go up in value. If you sell it, it becomes less valuable. You get less money for it. I'm not talking about the motorcycle. Forget the motorcycle for a moment, because you repossessed the motorcycle from him. And you're going to sell it, and so you're really suing for a very small part of what you're suing for is the motorcycle. The majority of it is this $2,200 that you originally had on your credit card.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Chrysler, I want you to concentrate on the $2,200 that you owed a credit card. Forget motorcycle.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julia Ely and Daniel Chrysler were engaged to be married. Julia wants Daniel to pay for bills and a motorcycle now that they have split.
Let's talk about the $2,200, sir. According to you, you made 6 payments of $80.
Yes.
Is it because you paid utilities and that kind of stuff that you feel as if you're not responsible for that
She
debt?
went above and beyond my control to get this motorcycle.
Forget motorcycle.
The motorcycle is the whole issue, because she transferred money around so I could afford to make payments on it. And I didn't want it to begin with.
Mr. Chrysler, I want you to forget motorcycle for a moment. I want you to concentrate on the $2,200 that you owed a credit card. Before motorcycle, no motorcycle. Did you pay that money?
No.
My question is,
I was in the process of paying.
but you stopped.
She broke off the relationship because she went out and had an affair.
What does that have to do with the $2,200?
Why should I pay her back for ruining my life?
Okay, now we get down to it. So that's your reason. Got it? Now I understand.
She wants everything back. She's even gone to the point where she sent me a letter. She wants birthday presents back. She wants my daughter's Christmas presents
Mr. Chrysler,
back.
shh. She's not getting birthday presents. She's not getting Christmas presents. whatever reason the relationship was terminated, you have this $2,200 debt, and you have no valid reason not to pay that $2,200 debt. I'm not talking about the motorcycle. I'm talking about the debt that you owe, because those were your bills, right? Those are things that you bought for yourself that, but for the fact that they were transferred to this new credit card, you would be responsible for.
So then it's legal for her to take and do things without my knowledge, prior to my knowledge, excuse me.
Mr. Chrysler, if somebody, your fiance, your wife, your girlfriend, does something with your finances that you're not satisfied with, what you do is, that day, you say, you had absolutely no right to do that. These are my responsibilities. I love you, dear, but don't take it upon yourself to do that. You don't acquiesce in doing it, pay for a period of time, and then conjure up an excuse at the end why you're not responsible for it anymore. That's not the right thing to do. So you owe her the $2,200, less some payments. Now, how many payments did he actually make?
He made payments on May 20th, July 4th.
Just a second. May 20th for how much?
$77.
Go ahead. Next payment.
July 4th.
Yeah.
$77.
Mm-hmm.
August 5th, $77. And August 20th, $84.
I don't agree with it because it feels like that she's trying to have her cake and eat it too, Your Honor. She wants she acts like she wants to keep the motorcycle, in which selling the motorcycle will cover that credit card balance.
No, sir. What she says is, and quite frankly, in her complaint, it's rather fair, she says that she has taken the motorcycle in and that she'll be able to get $1,400 for the motorcycle.
That's not right. I can get $2,000 for that motorcycle. Right now. I could sell that motorcycle for $2,000.
Well, then, sir, if you could have sold the motorcycle for $2,000, why didn't you sell it and pay it off when you, after your engagement was terminated? You stopped making the payments. Why didn't you do it?
Because I wanted
it. Doug, I don't...
She has it
say
back.
Nothing.
She can sell it.
Do me a favor. Say nothing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay. He had a balance of $2,200 that he acknowledges on the credit card. The motorcycle was $1,700, bringing us to $3,900. I'm giving him credit for the $315 that he paid, bringing us down to $3,595. So far, is that correct, my mathematician?
Yep.
And I am reducing that by $1,400 in the amount that you say you can sell the motorcycle for, leaving a balance of $2,195. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Not right, Your Honor. Sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy. The young lovers eloped in Las Vegas. Now they won't let her mom see her grandson.
Why?
Because she's a psycho.
She has a problem.
Real people. Judge Judy.
Overall, I'm happy that I got something from him. He got married and stopped making payments.
If she wants that money back, all she has to do is sell that bike, and I know she can get the full amount for it.
This woman is not what she looks like. Trust me.
She says he only stops women, and he was rude.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Yeah, this is case number 119 on the calendar in the matter of Robinson versus Manos. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Robinson, you are a police officer.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, in the course of your duties, you gave the defendant a speeding ticket.
Yes, ma'am.
A speeding ticket, eventually, upon which she was convicted, correct?
Yes.
Your complaint indicates that after you gave her the speeding ticket, she filed a complaint against you with Internal Affairs.
Yes, ma'am.
Something which you do not deny.
No.
that caused you a great deal of stress, ultimately could cause problems in your future career as a police officer, and you believe that she did so maliciously.
Yes, ma'am.
So since, Ms. Manos, you acknowledge the fact that you were convicted of speeding, so that he rightfully gave you the ticket, I'd like you to tell me why you filed a complaint against him.
Well, Your Honor, I had first observed,
Now look at me.
Oh, I had first, in days before and the days after, he'd only noticed that he only gave tickets to ladies. Like, and I've traveled the same route every day. I've been driving for 46 years. And I didn't feel at the time that I was guilty, because of the circumstances.
Because of what circumstances, Ms. Manos?
Well, I was driving.
Please look at me.
I was driving in the slow lane of traffic, and well, I feel there was no way I could have been going 50 miles an hour like he said I was, but that's beside the point.
Well, though, that is precisely the point. You were, in fact, convicted of speeding.
Right.
So my question to you is, why did you file a complaint against him?
Well, when he stopped me, he was very rude and abrupt and, like, talked like down at me very demeaningly, and I was nervous.
Give me an
and upset.
example. All right, let's start from the beginning, Ms. Manos. First of all, let's understand that when you're pulled over for speeding, your adrenaline is pumping. According to your answer, you've been driving for a long time and never received a speeding ticket before. No. So I assume that you were a little nervous?
Nervous, right.
No. So he pulled you over, and what was the first thing he said to you?
He said, you were speeding. And I said, I don't believe so. I was nervous and very upset, and he said, can I see your driver's license? And I got my driver's license and everything, and he just was very abrupt.
No. Stopped your car and said you were speeding.
Mm-hmm.
You said, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I need your driver's license.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you gave him your driver's license?
Yes.
Next thing that he said to you?
He asked me for my proof of insurance.
And you gave it to him?
Yes. And he said, he all the time he was like, he didn't, I don't know, he was just, he didn't, give me a chance to any explanation or anything, or even, just, I said, well, how he was doing 50 to 35 miles on his own. He said, I got it on radar. Well, I said, I don't think so.
Just a second. So you said, I don't think I was speeding, and he said, I have it on radar.
Mm-hmm.
That you were doing 50 in a 35-mile zone? You said, I don't think so.
Right.
And what did he say to you?
He just said, well, he said, that's what the, the radar thing says. Well, I said, I couldn't have been going that fast, officer, because I was in the slow lane of traffic, and I was going to be turning on Wilbur at the next block.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, that's what the radar said.
Okay. And what was the next? And then he gave you the ticket.
He went behind my car and wrote out the ticket.
And handed it to you?
Mm-hmm. Had me sign it.
And then what happened?
He just, drove, just drove away.
So, what's your complaint?
Well, the fact that when he, when he first stopped me, the way he, spoke to me, very, rude and demeaning. I didn't
hear anything rude and demeaning. He asked you for your license. He asked you for your proof of insurance, both of which you gave him to him. You questioned the fact, Ms. Manos, that he did in fact clock you going 50 in a 35-mile zone. His response to you was, I have it on radar.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You said, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I have it on radar.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went in the back, he wrote you a ticket. He came up, this is according to you. He came up to you, signed the ticket, and he left.
Mm-hmm.
He's not there to give you a recipe, madam. He's there to give you a speeding ticket.
No, I realize
What did you expect him to do?
Well, the thing of it is my understanding of, like, with the radar, I mean, this is just my understanding, thing, that you only can get it, like, from the front or from the rear of a vehicle, not, like, a 90-degree angle. I was, from where he was and to where I was.
That's something that you take up at a trial.
I know. But
so you were arguing with this officer?
No, I wasn't arguing with him. I just, I said I didn't think I was speeding because I was in the slow lane.
So you said you didn't think you were speeding. He said you were. If it's your understanding that there is some problem with radar, then that's something you take up at a trial.
Mm-hmm.
You have a relative who's in the police department?
Past relative, retired.
A retired relative. Who?
My husband.
And what was he?
Deputy sheriff.
Okay, so you had some information about that. So far, I don't hear any basis for your writing a letter of complaint against him.
I didn't write a letter of complaint. I called Internal Affairs. Because in fact, when he spoke with me, he spoke in like a demeaning manner. I mean, he very abrupt, and I mean, he could see that I was nervous and upset, and I mean, it just, you know, it just.
I didn't hear anything demeaning. You mean the words that he said? He said,
I mean,
instead of saying, "May I please have your license?"
No, no.
He said, "Give me your license."
Well, it's just his tone and his, you know.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This officer was nothing but courteous, was most respectful to you. How dare you place a call to Internal Affairs to try to make trouble for his career? How dare you do that?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Police officer Brett Robinson says he was not rude. He has a tape to prove it. He wants $5,000 from Beverly Manos for filing a false complaint against him.
You have something you want me to hear?
Yes, Your Honor. I have a tape recording of the actual conversation that took place between the defendant and myself. She's pretty close to what was said.
Good. So
and I
let me
have
hear
a
it.
transcript for you and for the defendant if you
I
wish
don't need
to.
a transcript. What
Okay.
she's complaining about, certainly there is absolutely nothing in what you said to her that is untoward. As a matter of fact, what you said to her was absolutely professional. What she is now complaining about is your tone.
Okay.
So if you have a recording, I'm going to listen to your tone.
Okay.
Go.
Your Honor.
I'm fine. 50 miles an hour on the radar. Well, what I did was I was trying to pass out of the car because I had come off and when I had that spot. I know. Well,
About a driver's license.
okay. They had the, the other intersection down there. You see that they had the, what do you call it, lane blocked, and I had to get over to there to turn, because that's the only way I could get back over to, go. Okay, why don't you go ahead and find the registration and the insurance, please? I'll be right back with you. Sir? I'll be right back with you, ma'am. You have the paperwork there? Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just so nervous. That's okay. Ma'am, they give you till the 27th of March to take care of the citation. Signatures here at the bottom, please. You have any idea how much? No, I sure don't. I wasn't doing anything. Sorry, I'm just so nervous. It's okay, I understand. I do need your signature here at the bottom, please. I've never had this signature in my life. Does this mean I have to go to court? There's no way. All the information's on the copy that you're going to get. Oh, there's no way I can go to court. I can't afford to take off from work without pay. JJ's going to be very happy with me, JJ Leonard. Do you know JJ Leonard? Yeah. Information is on the back of the ticket. I'm he's in the American Legion with my husband, with Pete, and he's going to be very unhappy with me. Okay. Drive safely. Bye-bye. Today is February the 10th, 1998, 8:45 a.m.
Your Honor, don't they have to ask your permission or tell you that they are taping conversations?
I don't answer your questions, madam. You answer my questions. I've just listened to this tape. This officer was nothing but courteous, tried to be kind to you, was most respectful to you. How dare you place a call to Internal Affairs to try to make trouble for his career? How dare you do that? That's outrageous. That's outrageous. You know what happens? You know, everybody in this country sees glaring newspaper articles about abuses by police officers. And the things that you do demean sometimes legitimate complaints about cops that are bad. This officer knows that there are some cops that would be rude, that are not nice. You happen to pick on one that couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been more pleasant. He's at the beginning of his career. How dare you call Internal Affairs to register a complaint against him? And not only that, not only did you lie about the fact, Ms. Manos, that he was rude, abrupt with you.
I thought you was.
You were upset. You were upset. That has nothing to do with him. You were speeding. But in order to make it even worse for this officer, you accused him of bias. You said that he only stops women. And now you're trying to tell me that you watched him, and the only people that he stopped in the days that you watched him were women.
Well, like the days before, one of the ladies in my same building had stopped. And then also...
Just a second. So the day before, another woman was stopped by this officer. And based on that, you concluded that he only stops women.
Well, on all the days that I saw him at the same location, for almost about 4 days, and all I ever saw him pulled over was women.
Oh, please.
No, really.
Please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Banos, I want to tell you something. If you don't tell the truth once, judges don't believe anything that you say.
Well, I am telling the truth.
No, you didn't. You didn't tell the truth about your major complaint because you said your major complaint was that he was rude to you.
I felt he was rude.
No. You felt he was rude? Your first question to me after you heard this tape was, doesn't he have to ask my permission to tape record what I say? That has nothing to do with the truth of the tape.
No,
that has to do with the fact that you were upset that he had the tape to begin with.
No, I
now,
didn't even know they had
Officer Robinson,
yes, ma'am.
Let's get to your damages, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't even look to see who an officer is stopping. As long as he's not stopping my car, I'm happy. And you're telling me you're on your way to work, and you not only stop to see the car, you stop to see whether the person he's giving the citation to is a male or a female? Baloney!
No, I don't stop.
Baloney!
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Police officer Brett Robinson wants $5,000 from Beverly Manos for filing a false complaint against him after he stopped her for speeding. Beverly says she's never had a speeding ticket in 46 years.
People have to be discouraged from filing false complaints against police officers. And I'm going to compensate you.
Thank you.
I want you to tell me what you feel as if it's worth and where you would like the money to go.
Well, I feel it's worth the full amount of the suit that I filed for, which was for $5,000, based upon a couple of reasons. Number one, as you already stated, I only have 14 years on the police department. I probably have another 16 more to do, and the promotability. This type of complaint goes into your personnel package, whether it's unfounded or no misconduct is as a result of the end of the investigation. It hurts an officer's career.
How long did this investigation go on, sir?
The ticket was written on February the 10th. She made the complaint on February the 13th. I was notified by my sergeant that the complaint was probably towards the end of February, beginning of March. I don't know the exact day. From that point on, I began to obtain assistance from another police officer as well as a private investigator, Officer Clark Baker here, who is my witness and helped me to establish a case against Ms. Manas.
When was the investigation with regard to her complaint finally terminated with regard to you?
June the 1st, I was called into the captain's office, and I have paperwork here to show it was originally found unfounded. They sent it to the chief of police office. They asked for it to be withdrawn by the chief of police. The chief of police refused to withdraw the complaint, instead changed the unfounded complaint to no misconduct. This is the complaint.
I'd like to see the complaint, too, while you're looking for the other documents.
Can you sure you have it? Oh, here it is, right here.
You might be interested to know, Ms. Manos, that they conducted their own internal audit based upon your complaint of the citations that this officer gave. On February 10th, the day that you were cited, Officer Robinson issued 13 citations. 9 of those were issued to males, 69%. For the period from January 30th to February 20th, which is a larger period of time, a total of 120 citations were issued by Officer Robinson. Of those 120 citations, 55% were issued to males, 66 to males, 54 to women. That belies That was based on their own internal audit. That belies what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Your Honor, I was just going by where on that space of the span of the street where, I go to work.
I don't believe you. You were angry.
No, I
Oh,
wasn't
sure
angry.
you were. I don't believe you. I don't
I
believe
was
that
upset.
anybody. Listen, I drive the same route all the time. To go to work, to go to visit my children, whatever. I don't even look to see who an officer is stopping. As long as he's not stopping my car, I'm happy. And you're telling me you're on your way to work, and you not only stop to see the car, you stop to see whether the person he's giving the citation to is a male or a female? Baloney!
No, I don't stop.
Baloney!
Just
Oh, give me baloney.
You stop. You can see, Your Honor. You can see, Your Honor, when you're passing,
No, not if you're supposed to be watching in front of you, madam. If you're supposed to be watching in front of you, you're not looking to see another car off the side of the road, and especially whether the occupant of the car is a male or a female.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I want to tell you something. I don't even like this form by the police department. This form says the above complaint has been investigated, and a review of the investigation has led to the recommended classification of, and there are only two ways to answer. Other than sustained, which is what is checked off here, or sustained, and what the penalty is. There is no place here that says no basis. That's unfair. That seems to me to be something that should be addressed. Now, you want to tell me, sir, do you want this entire award to you, or is there any particular way you want to divvy it up?
The court fees, Your Honor, I would like to go to the Mid-Valley Community Police Council.
How much?
How much are the court fees?
$300.
And what kind of an organization is this?
This is a community organization that supports programs that the police department gets involved in. It benefits both the community and the police department.
Like what? Give me an example. First, tell me your name.
Training to police officers, training to supervisors. They're also affiliated with organizations such as Jeopardy, which is a gang intervention program that assists children.
Okay. Next. The remainder of the award you want to you personally?
Please.
Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff. The entire award is $5,000 with $300 of the award towards Mid-Valley Community Council. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Well, I was a little unhappy, but, some of the officers should, be a little more discreet with their giving out their tickets, that's all.
You can't make a complaint against a police officer without basis or without merit, without expecting some type of accountability for the complaint that you're making.
Barth says hairstylist Sean Muhammad made her hair fall out after giving her a weave. The hairstylist says it was not her fault.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Your Honor, this is case number 133 on the calendar in the matter of Barth versus Johnson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
I know that you're Miss Barth. Who is Sean Mohammed?
I am.
And Stephanie Johnson?
I am.
You're the owner of the salon?
That's correct.
And Miss Mohammed, you are the person who allegedly, negligently put in a weave in this lady's hair?
That's correct.
You have a booth in her salon?
That's correct.
So you're suing both of them?
Yes.
Okay. You claim that this lady, who you went to have a weave put in your hair, put it in, causing you to become bald?
Yes.
So tell me about it. First, how did you come to use the defendant's services?
I do a lot of traveling, and one day passing by, I decided to stop in.
and asked the beautician if she did, if her shop did hair weaves.
Who did you ask?
I asked Sean, and she said yes, it would cost $125. So we scheduled the appointment, and she directed me to a store in Palmdale called Winnie's Place to pick up the hair that I needed. Okay. For a weave, I needed a couple of them, and this is the weave. Okay. So when I went per our schedule, she first washed my hair and then she conditioned it and asked me if I was tender-headed. So I told her, no, I'm not tender-headed. But as she started braiding my hair in a circle, very thin rows, I noticed she was braiding very, very tight. And I asked her on several occasions to not braid so tight. I told her I need to think after this. And she told me it had to be tight in order to keep the top from looking poofy. So my exact words, I told her, you're the one with the license, you know what you're doing, as long as my hair doesn't fall out. Exactly. Okay? She kept braiding so tight. I mean, it came to the point I cried. I sat there and I cried, okay? I did not ask her to do this to my head. Look at this. I can't wear my hair. I can't wear it. Look at that. And the pictures, I had hair on my head before I went to her shop. Paid $125 for her to do my hair. I also gave her a $10 tip.
Just a minute. Hold on. Miss Barth, got a couple of questions for you. Had you ever had a hair weave before?
Yes, I have.
And were you satisfied?
Before, yes.
So you knew how it felt?
I knew before I had 4 rows, large rows.
Whatever, you had a hair weave before.
Okay, and it was not done tight. It felt great.
You are a business person?
Yes, I am.
Intelligent?
Yes, I am.
So what I don't understand is, I go into a beauty salon. I ask them to do a procedure for me. I'm sitting there crying because my head is hurting so much. Not only don't you get up and leave, which, quite frankly, is what a normal reaction is, especially since you've had the process done before and you had no pain, you gave her a tip.
Yes.
Miss Barth, doesn't that sound dumb to you? Let's think about it. You sit in this chair, you don't know this lady, she doesn't come with any recommendations to you. You just walked into her store and said, do you do this? She said, yes. You sit down in her chair, she conditions your hair, she starts to torture you. Torture, right? And how long did this whole process take, an hour?
No, it took about 4
hours. So from the first time she started to do it, she was killing you. And you told her it was too tight. And then you sat there for 4 hours. You could deliver 4 babies in 4 hours. Doesn't that sound ridiculous to you? Sure. And then when you were all finished, when she was all finished torturing you for 4 hours, you gave her a $10 tip. So you went home. You went home with this very tight weave. And when did you notice that your hair started to fall out?
The day before Thanksgiving.
When was this procedure done?
Around the 16th of November.
Okay, so it was not more than 10 days later that you saw your hair started to fall out, right?
Yes.
So what did you do?
I called Sean and told her there was a patch of my hair sticking up, and she asked me to come, if I can come down to her shop so she could see exactly what I was talking about. I went, actually my friend of mine drove me down, and sitting in her chair, she took a fine-tooth comb. She scraped underneath the top of that weave and put the scalp in my hand, telling me that it pussed up. The reason my hair fell out is because it pussed up. Okay?
Let me see. Do you have photographs to show?
Yes, ma'am.
I saw photographs sitting on the desk.
Okay.
So, what did you do next?
Well, she told me that she wanted to start a scalp treatment on my hair to help my hair grow back. But before I allowed her to do that, I wanted to make sure my scalp was not infected. And I went to my doctor to make sure it wasn't infected, and this is his summation, telling me that my scalp was not infected, and that the follicles were still open where the hair will come back through.
Okay. So you had started some treatments.
Yes.
With the same person?
With Sean. The first day of the treatment, she told me it would take 20 minutes, and she put this green stuff, which she mixed in baking soda, and put it on my scalp, and 20 minutes with a plastic bag, and then she used the shampoo from it, which made the hair clump up. During that, she still had customers, clients coming in her office. She even put a hat on my head, okay? Now, a 3 o'clock appointment for a 20-minute hair scalp treatment turned into 11:30 that night. Because she made the hair clump up, she asked me if I had more of this hair at home. I took it upon myself, because I knew she was not going to unclump all this hair, went back to Palmdale. Winnie waited for me to come so I could buy another bag of hair from her, $43.30. I walked into Sean's shop and I said, here's the hair I picked up for you. So you owe me $43.30. She says, I'm not going to pay for it. I could have untangled that. Your Honor, the next day I had to speak in front of 300 people. 11:30 at night. I didn't have time for her.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm in sales. I'm a Medicare representative. And from 3 o'clock to 11:30 that night, a 20-minute scalp treatment turned into a nightmare.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She tortured you for 4 hours. You sat there, you paid her, you tipped her, you went home. 10 days later, you had severe trauma to your scalp. Why did you go back to her?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Franchetta Barth was surprised by her hair falling out after she received a hair weave from stylist Sean Muhammad. Now she wants $5,000 for pain, suffering, and loss of hair. Sean says Franchetta caused it herself.
Miss Barth, you went to this lady. She tortured you for 4 hours. You sat there. You paid her. You tipped her. You went home. 10 days later, you had severe trauma to your scalp. You had loss of hair. Why did you go back to her?
Well, she offered to try this scalp treatment. Okay, I've never sued anyone before. I'll be the first one to try to give
anybody. I'm suggesting that you say to some friends, co-workers, I had this terrible problem with a weave that I had. Can you recommend somebody to me to go to? Go to your doctor. But you don't go back to the person who you believe caused you the trouble. That's just not smart. Right? Stop crying. It's hair, it's going to go back.
I'm trying.
Okay. So you put in this weave, and do you remember her saying to you that it was very tight?
No, what happened was, the first time that I met Miss Barth was on September the 31st, which was a Friday. She came into the line, as she stated. She told me she was in the area and she wanted to get a weave. So I did tell her to look at the books and show me. She made an appointment for November the 1st. November the 1st was a Saturday. Her appointment was for 8 a.m. and she came in. As she stated, I asked her about her hair. I asked her what she did, because when you get braids, and braids sometimes can be tight, so I made sure she wasn't tender-headed. I washed her hair and conditioned her hair. I braided her hair for the process of doing a full head weave. At the time when I did the full hair weave, as I go around, I asked her, was there any discomfort to her? She told me that there wasn't. I told her when I get to the top and as I close in the circle, it's going to get a little bit tighter, because when you're finishing something and the scalp gathers together, then it gets kind of tight. She told me that she was fine and she was comfortable. And I kept asking her to make sure, because that's what I do. I make sure that she's comfortable, because I know that I have to sew the hair on that she showed you onto the braids, because that's the foundation. When I sewed the hair onto the braids, Miss Barth told me that everything was fine. 2 weeks later, Miss Barth called me on November the 12th. It was either the 12th or the 18th. And she called me and told me that her hair had came out in the top. I said, well, I never had a weave come out, and I've been doing weaves for years. So I really don't know why you were recalling me, but if you want me to look at your hair, I'll be glad to look at your hair. So when Miss Barth came in, which was on November the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. At the top of her head, she showed me a quarter-sized piece, which is in the picture up there. And she lifted it up, and I looked at it. And she asked me, what could she do? Could I sew it back down? I told her, what you need to do is you need to go to the doctor and get a doctor's statement saying that your scalp is not infected, because I am not going to touch your scalp because I don't want to catch anything. She said, okay. About 2 days later, this was on Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly what the day was, but maybe like the 20th, she called me back and told me she had her doctor's notice and that the doctor...
This doctor's notice isn't dated until December 11th.
Okay, maybe that's the doctor's notice that she got after the time.
That says that her hair was not infected.
Okay. But anyway, she said that her hair was not infected. She showed me the note, and she asked me if I could, now that she sees that my scalp is not infected and there's nothing contagious there, would I be able to sew the hair back down? And so I told her, well, okay, you can sew the hair back down. But in the process, she was asking me, what can we do about promoting the hair growth? And so I told her that conditioning the scalp and making sure that the hair is shampooed and clean, that would start to promote healthy hair. And I also explained to her that I had been to a hair show previously where we were taught about the organic stimulations treatment, which causes healthy growth of hair.
Whatever. So you washed her hair, it got clumped up, and then she went out and she got some other stuff. Listen, to make a long story short, you were seriously dissatisfied and you had a hair loss, right?
Yes.
I believe you're at least partially responsible as a mature, educated, intelligent woman. If it was too tight, she's not feeling what you're feeling. Only you're feeling what you're feeling. You get up and leave. So there's a partial responsibility that you have. You have a responsibility too, because you're the professional and you should be able to see. There's no question in my mind that this problem resulted from the hair being pulled too tight. It's going to grow back. But there was no infection in her hair, and not only that, but on the sides, she had severe hair loss on the sides as well. I mean, this is a big piece of hair, right?
Yes, but she didn't have any sides. When she came in to me to show the top of her hair, there was no side damage. She only showed me the top of her hair. And she continued to come back to me to get her hair shampooed, conditioned weekly.
For how long?
I have my appointment book. That's the only thing that I have to show the dates that Miss Barth continued to come in for the treatments that I gave her free because she already had
How many treatments did you go in for?
She did one treatment.
You have an appointment book that shows that she came?
Yeah, these are the dates that from November from November to December, it shows her name and the different dates that she dropped in on.
When did she come in after Thanksgiving in November, between November and December?
The date after Thanksgiving was December 9th.
Okay, so she came in December 9th. Mm-hmm. When after December 9th?
After December 9th, she also came in on December the 17th.
Okay. When again?
That was her last time coming, which was December the 17th.
Okay, good. So it's taken about 6 months for your hair to grow back now. Well, doesn't look so bad. It looks terrible when you take the wig off and you go like this, but it doesn't look so terrible.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Listen to me, Miss Barth. You had a lot of pain. You had a lot of pain. You're an adult. You don't sit there in pain. If somebody is causing you pain, you say, excuse me, I'm leaving.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Franchetta says a bad hair weave from stylist Sean Muhammad made her hair fall out. Sean says Franchetta caused her own loss of hair.
All right. What were your costs?
For everything, including other wigs that I bought that just didn't work.
No, not other wigs that didn't work. How much did you pay for this wig that you're wearing?
$86.
Fine. And tell me how much the costs were in total for what you paid the defendant.
$135.
And the treatments?
She didn't charge me for the treatment.
Did you have any doctor's costs as a result of this?
$10 for the office visit.
Just $10 for the office visit. Bert, I come to $231.
That's it, Judge.
Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. Your claim is for $5,000. Now, you don't expect me to give you $5,000,
I don't
do
expect
you?
to get $5,000.
Of
When
course.
Your Honor, I don't know what something like this costs or how much for pain.
Okay. Well, you had a lot of pain. Listen to me, Miss Barth. You had a lot of pain. You had a lot of pain. You're an adult. You don't sit there in pain. If somebody is causing you pain, you say, excuse me, I'm leaving. And you get up and you go. You don't sit there while somebody is causing you pain, especially when you've had this process before.
And why did
I
she
certainly
continue to
believe
come
that
back?
you should get back the cost of all of your expenses. And so far, all of your expenses were $231. Customer relations. Just listen to me about customer relations. You had a dissatisfied customer. You should have taken care of it immediately. What do you want to say?
I want to say that this is the first time that I have ever seen Miss Barth. I've never spoken to her. She's never made any attempt to contact me. I'm the owner of the salon. Had she contacted me, then I may have intervened to see what in fact did occur. But she may have had some scalp damage. I haven't seen those photographs. She apparently did have some scalp damage. I don't personally believe that it was as a result of weaving. Why would she wait 10 days? That's the other thing. She waited, her hair was done on November 1st. She says 10 days later,
started to fall
her
out.
hair began to fall out.
Right.
Yet she came back to the salon
several times.
Listen to
not
me.
for the treatment.
Listen to
May I
me.
just finish?
I don't
Not for the
understand.
treatment, but to request to have the hair sewed back. It would seem to me you would request to have the hair taken out, not let's put more in.
I'm not suggesting to you that Miss Barth acted rationally. I said if somebody was hurting me, and that's what you said happened, I would have picked myself up and walked out, especially if you had the process done before.
Exactly.
It's common sense. If somebody really pulls your hair very tight, that can cause the hair follicle to be disrupted. You know that. It can cause an infection. You know that. The fact that it doesn't happen, the fact that it doesn't happen routinely, it happened to her.
It may have happened to her. I don't deny that it happened to her. Did it happen as a result of that process?
The proximate cause
is the question.
Yes. Well, nobody is going to be able to figure that out, except that the only intervening act between the time she came into your shop and the time that her hair fell out was the hair weave.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Listen to me. This is not the Scopes trial. It's not the Supreme Court of the United States. What I'm telling you, madam, is between the time she had her hair woven at a salon where you rent the co-defendant, the booth, and the time she came back, she lost her hair. The hair was woven very tight. There is no question about that. And she says she told her it was hurting her. I find her at least partially responsible for sitting there and letting somebody hurt her, because she should have gotten up and should have left, but it shouldn't cost her any money. So I'm awarding her $250 for the cost of all of her products. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He says, do I need to bring in some Q-tips so you can clean out your ears?
His boss was rude.
Pay attention, otherwise I'm going to tell you to get the Q-tips.
Judge Judy Justice.
Her hair came out from something that she did by gashing her scalp, and that was her fault.
And as the judge said, you're going to sit there for 4 hours and be tortured?
My doctor told me the reason I had that red spot is because it was an unnatural force where a clump of my hair came out at one time.
Harassment.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 131 on the calendar in the matter of Taylor versus Samarin. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Taylor, you are suing the defendant for really falsely accusing you of a crime.
Yes, ma'am.
And for whatever damages that you incurred, doctor bills, time that you spent in jail as a result of his complaint.
Yes.
both he and his employee, you are the employee?
That's correct.
The countersuit, because they say that since this incident that brought the two of you together, you've been harassing them. Now, I read both the complaint and the answer, so let me at least try to put this in context. You had a boyfriend.
Yes.
Is this the boyfriend?
Yes.
And your boyfriend had been employed by the defendant.
Yes.
For how long, sir?
3 days.
And you terminated his employment.
Yes.
And your boyfriend asked you to accompany him to get his paycheck.
Yes, ma'am.
And you drove, or did he?
I drove.
Did he tell you that he had been fired?
No, never. Not one time he said he's been fired.
What time of the day was this?
It was around 4 o'clock.
What was his work schedule?
7 to 4.
7 to 4, 5 days a week?
Correct.
So this was about 4 o'clock, according to you, correct?
Yes.
And he had been with you that afternoon?
All day.
Well, then he wasn't working that day.
No, he wasn't.
So didn't you ask him why he wasn't working that day?
No, because at that day he went to the DMV because he had to get some papers from DMV, and that's why he wasn't working that day.
Well, he's saying no, but maybe he doesn't remember. In any event, he wasn't working on a day that he was supposed to have been working. And then what happened?
Then he opened the door and waved his hand like, come in. So I went in, and him and his boss was arguing, and I figured that they was arguing about the paycheck. So when I walked in, he asked me, he said, well, what would you do?
Who's he?
This man right here. He said, what would you do? And I said, I'm puzzled. I didn't know what was going on, you know. And David asked me not to say nothing, so I didn't say anything. So they was arguing, and then I said, well, to solve the matter, why don't you just write him his paycheck, and then we'll go, and that'll solve the problem. So then after that, his secretary went back. I went with her in the back. And she said, I'm so nervous. And I said, I'm so nervous.
What did you go with her in the back for?
When she went to write David's check.
What'd you go with her for?
Because she wanted me to walk back there with her. And that's
Is that
why
what she said to you? Will
yes,
you walk back there with me?
She said, I said, I'll go with you. She said, sure, it's okay. So I walked back there with her, and she said, I'm really nervous. And I said, I am too, because she said, I've never been in this position before. And I said, well, I've never been in this position before either. So I pat her on her back and said, it'll be okay, honey. And then she wrote me the check, and we started walking from the back. Well, in the meanwhile, by the time me and David was about to go out the door, I was trying to handle his paycheck, and all of a sudden, police was just everywhere. And all of a sudden, the police had him on the ground, okay? But in the meanwhile, I still had David's check in my hand. So I sit on the porch because I didn't know what was happening. I said, I can't believe this is not really happening. So the police went in the office to talk to him and his secretary. And so I sat on the porch for a while, maybe about 15 minutes. So the police came back out and said, do you have the check? And I said, yes, I do have the check. He said, well, we're arresting you because they said that you did terrorist threat to them, okay? I said, I never seen them before. I don't even know them. I don't know what's going on. This is David's check. This is not my check. And I said, I think it's unfair for you to put me in jail because what this man said, I ain't never seen him in my life.
Wasn't talking about prior relationship. I assume he was talking about what went on in that office today.
I'm talking about what went on in the office.
So you were arrested?
Yes.
Sir, you want to start from the time he walked into the door? Because I've read your answer.
Yes, I was in my back office, and...
what kind of business do you have?
I'm in a general engineering, asphalt and concrete improvements, public works.
And what kind of work was...
truck driver.
He was driving a truck for you?
Correct.
What happened?
He entered the office door somewhat belligerent, noisy, and my girl Angie called me up front. So I think we have a problem here.
So this was the first person he met?
Yes.
Just step up, please. What is your name?
Angie Abeta.
Miss Abeta, would you tell me what happened when he first came into the office?
Okay, I sit at the front office, and my boss's office is in the back. He just burst in, and you could tell he was, not sober, I don't know. But anyway, he burst in and yelled, I want my money. And that startled me right away because I have never seen the man. I usually don't see the employees. And that's when I called John over. And
did you say anything to him when he said, I want my money?
No, I called John right away.
So you called Your boss?
Yes.
And then you came out?
Yes.
And what happened when you came out?
I was quite concerned. His eyes
tell me
didn't
what
appear
happened.
properly focused. He had alcohol in his breath, and he was demanding his paycheck. And we didn't even have a week's worth of wages yet, and Angie didn't prepare a check, and I was really concerned more about my automobile, and then I was going to find out about this check.
Why were you concerned about your automobile?
Several days before, I let him take my car home, and he blew the engine.
Why did you let him take your car home?
He was demanding to go home, to be let off the clock. There was no work for him. Rather than going with the crew, I allowed him to take my car home.
What kind of car was it?
It's the BMW 635 M6.
How long had he worked for you before you gave him this car?
2 days.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Believe me, I wasn't drunk.
I didn't say you were drunk. I didn't say you were drunk. I said he was drunk, just like he is today.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica Taylor says she was not involved with a robbery and terrorist threats the day she was arrested at John Samaran's company. She's suing him for false imprisonment. His witness, Angela Abeta, says Veronica frightened her.
Okay, so he comes into the office, he's demanding his paycheck. You want to find out what's happened with your car and whatever, and you hadn't prepared a paycheck for him. So what happened next?
Then he starts threatening me.
What did he say, sir?
I choose not to use the profane language.
I've heard everything.
Well, he says, "You dirty old son of a... I've done worse than this. Let me have my money. I'm going to get out of here." I proceeded over to an empty workstation where there was a phone, hoping I can just dial 911. He pushed me down and said, "Don't you dare use the phone." He kicks
When
the
you say he
desk.
pushed you down, did he put his hands on you?
Yes,
Where?
my shoulder.
Okay, go ahead.
And then proceeded to tell me not to use the phone. "I'm only here to get my money. As I can knock your head off. I've done worse things than this." And it was just, I don't remember word for word, but the intent that my life was in jeopardy, and I was quite fearful of what may happen. And I just tried to stay calm. In the meantime, I knew that Angie was no longer in the room at this point. I was trusting that she was dialing 911.
Did you, in fact, dial 911 for the
Yes,
police?
when I heard him arguing and I went and sneaked and he pushed him into the chair, then I sneaked back to his office and I did dial 911. And I walked back up to the front office again, and he was still threatening him, yelling him. The second time I walked up, he hit him. He slapped him in the face, and then I ran back again to call 911 again. By that time, he walked out of the door.
Who did?
The intruder. He
This
walked out
gentleman.
of the door. I could see from the back office. In came him with the lady.
With this lady?
And, well, I stayed hidden in John's office again.
In the back?
In the back. Again, I picked up the phone to call 911 again. I called about 3 times, and at that point in time, I heard John pick up the phone at that desk station, and he slammed the phone down and yelled at him in bad words not to use the phone. He didn't realize that I was on the other phone. And then she starts walking back to the back office and found me there. And that's when she was on top of me.
What did she say when she came to the back office?
Well, she started yelling, you know, "He's out of control, and if you don't write the check, he's going to do something." And of course, I figured after he did something to him, he'd come back to me. So she kept on top of me when I was sitting at the desk. She didn't realize I had just dialed 911. But I heard yelling where John was coming from, so I walked back up and I yelled at the intruder. I told him, "Wait, I'm going to get the checks out. I'm going to write you a check." So then she's following me around. We walk back, we unlock the checks, and I write the check. And all this takes, you know, a good 30, 45 minutes. And of course, I'm shaking, and she's standing there. She says, "We're not leaving until you write the check, and he's going to do something
Did
to
she
him."
say, "We're not leaving until you write
Yes,
out the check"?
And I wrote the check and gave it to her. And by that time, I thought the police hadn't come. But when they started to walk out, she had the check in her hand. And of course, by that time, I was a nervous wreck. And then we saw the police outside.
Now, Miss Taylor, Can you tell me why, after you walked inside to the office and you saw that this was a very hostile situation, why you just didn't turn around and get back into your car and leave?
Because after I talked to David and him, okay, and when I said just write the check and just solved everything, I walked back with her. We wasn't even in there 20 minutes, so when she said 45 minutes, that was a lie.
I don't care if it's 5 minutes.
You know?
According to you, it was a routine thing that he was just going in to pick up his paycheck, right?
Yes.
When you were called inside by this gentleman, you saw him in a state of altercation with his boss over the paycheck, right?
Yes.
Why didn't you just turn around, get back into your car, and leave?
Because I thought the problem was solved. When I got in there, I thought the problem was solved, okay? But it wasn't solved because they were still arguing. Sure enough, I should have went back in my car, like you said, and went back in my car.
Absolutely right,
okay?
because you understand that as far as they was concerned, I'll get to you in a minute. As far as they were concerned, they had a hostile environment. And there were two of them. There was only one of him. But then he went out and called somebody else. Somebody else who didn't just come in and then walk out, but who went in the back office. And according to you, you say, why don't you just give him the check and then we'll just get out of here? Or let's just resolve this, give him the check. Well, they weren't ready to give him the check. They say that your words were somewhat different. That you better give him the check or else I don't know what he's going to do. He's out of control. But they're faced with a very hostile environment. Had he been drinking?
Had he
been drinking?
Yes, he had one
of
drink,
course.
yes.
And was he drinking today?
Yes, he was drinking today.
Sure he was. Was he drinking before he came to court today?
Yes.
Sure, he was. He was drinking before he came to court, and he was drinking all afternoon with you before you went to their office.
No, that's not true.
Oh, sure he was.
No, that's not true, ma'am. Because believe me, I wasn't drunk.
I didn't say you were drunk. I didn't say you were drunk. I said he was drunk, just like he is today.
I'm not, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much did he drink today?
He had one drink today, Your Honor.
And what did he have to drink?
Brandy.
From where did he get the brandy?
From the liquor store.
You don't buy brandy by the glass in a liquor store.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Veronica Taylor wants John Samarin to pay for her false imprisonment on charges of robbery and terrorist threats.
Now, I'm going to ask you a couple of other questions. This is my next to the last case for the day, so you've had a good 4 or 5 hours. How much did he drink today?
He had one drink today, Your Honor.
What time?
Had to be 12:30.
And what did he have to drink?
Brandy.
From where did he get the brandy?
From the liquor store.
You don't buy brandy by the glass in a liquor store.
No, he bought a small shot bottle. Okay?
Right.
What does that have to do with this case, Your Honor?
Sir, I don't answer your questions. You answer my questions. Now, I trust that you didn't know that there was going to be a problem.
No, I didn't.
But once you got into that office, you recognized that there was a problem.
Yes, I did.
Then you should have gotten out. Because their perception of what was going on was they now had two people demanding money, threatened. He was pushed. He was slapped. Right? You didn't push him. You didn't slap him. But you also, in whatever language you used, whether it was, why don't you just give him the check and then we'll get out of here?
She never said that, Your Honor.
Put him out.
Step this way, please.
Of the building. Miss Taylor, you ever been arrested before this incident?
No.
How many times has he been arrested?
I don't know, ma'am.
A lot more than the no times that you've been arrested, right?
Yes.
You got to pick your friends more carefully, madam. You got caught up in the situation, but they didn't have you arrested falsely. They had good and substantial reason to have caused you to be arrested along with him. That's not the way you handle a dispute. You don't go in, push your boss around, throw him around in a chair, and demand to be paid. You don't do that. If you think somebody owes you money, then what you do is you resort to the courts. What are you shaking your head no for? You think what I just said to you was wrong? From their perception, they had a hostile, aggressive person who had just assaulted him, who called in somebody else who was sitting out in a car, who comes in and says to them, why don't you just give him the paycheck and we'll get out of here? Now, that's as benign as you say you said it to them. But their perception is that these two people are together. So I'm dismissing your lawsuit. Now, let's get to the counterclaim. Since this incident, you say that she has harassed you.
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Several times she's called the office. She was advising me to tell John that she was suing us for false arrest and for medical bills, and tell him, pay my bills, and tell him I'm suing him because you stupid, I don't remember the other word, you had me arrested and I didn't do anything to you, and
okay,
and
so
she
that's
called several times saying the same thing.
Same thing?
Mm-hmm.
That she wanted money?
Yes.
When was the last time she called you?
Roughly 3 weeks ago.
Instead of calling them when they told you that they weren't going to pay you the money, why didn't you just sue them?
Your Honor, when I went to the courthouse, only time that I called this lady is when I went to the courthouse and they told me they had to know that I was doing this and I had to call them. That was the only time I called them.
What did you say to them when you called?
I said, this is Veronica. She said, well, is this the Veronica that lives in our apartment building? I said, no, this is the Veronica that you threw in jail. And she said, well, you should be in jail. I said, well, why should I be in jail? I said, I'm just calling you, telling you what I'm about to do. She's the one that cussed me out, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay, Miss Taylor, let me tell you this. But for the fact that you filed this lawsuit, I doubt very much that they would have filed a counterclaim. So I'm telling you this. I'm dismissing your lawsuit because it's nonsense. I am also, at this time, without prejudice to you, dismissing your counterclaim. But that is with the following warning, Miss Taylor. You are to have absolutely no further contact with these people. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you do, the dismissal of their countersuit is without prejudice. They're coming back to court. If you contact them at all or cause anyone else to contact them, they have the right to come back because I will consider that harassment. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
All of it was a lie, okay? What they said was a lie. It wasn't true at all. Never been in jail in my life, and that was wrong.
The whole situation was horrendous, and her saying that it's a lie, you know, we lived through it.
After all, that was a violent 20 minutes or so with this couple.
Christie flirted with his best friend, ruining their friendship.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 156 on the calendar in the matter of Phillips versus Mason. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Phillips, this was your former boyfriend.
Yes.
And you loaned him a camera. Your camera, he wants to borrow it, use it to take some pictures, and you lost the camera.
No, she knows who has the camera.
Well, according to your answer, sir, you left it in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you know where it is?
The person I was talking to.
Do you know where it is?
Yeah, I know where it is. He told me where it was.
So why don't you go get it?
Why should I?
All right.
I mean, I told her where the camera was, for one, Your Honor, and I forgot the camera. When I came out here once I went to San Diego, the first thing I did was call her and let her know where her camera was.
Just a minute. It all gets a little confusing, but we're going to straighten it out. Mr. Mason, according to your answer, sir, you acknowledge that you, in fact, did borrow Miss Phillips' camera.
Yeah, I did.
Right?
Yeah.
And you took it with you on a trip to San Diego?
To Los Angeles.
To Los Angeles. You live in San Diego?
Yeah.
Try yes. It's nicer.
Yes.
And you were out at a lunch or at a meeting with a former best friend of yours.
It was a confrontation about what happened between them.
Where was this confrontation?
At the restaurant.
And you had the camera with you?
Yeah, I had it around my neck. And when we talked, I took it off with my hat, my glasses, set it on the side. I began to talk to him.
So you took off the camera. Your glasses, your hat, that's your problem. You took off her camera and you put it on the bench next to you?
The table.
Table. And then you had this confrontation with a former best friend of yours.
Yeah.
Which was about Miss Phillips?
Yeah.
Because you saw her, according to your papers, kissing your best friend.
No, I never saw her. I never saw her. I read in her, she had a little journal sitting out when I came to visit her. And her little journal said that she had flirted and why did she, she didn't explain, it didn't explain what she had did. So at that time, I couldn't confront her about that. So from that point, I went to LA to talk to him about this.
Okay. So this gentleman was your former friend?
Of 9 years.
Were you dating her at the time?
No.
Were you dating her at the time that she allegedly did this flirting?
No.
Ask him how long it had been.
In any event, it made you mad. Made you mad more at your friend.
Yeah, that's why I had a problem with it.
Made you mad. Well, that's reasonable. It made you mad more at your friend than at her. She wasn't your girlfriend. She can flirt with whoever she wants to flirt with, right?
Yeah, you can't compare 5 months of sex with 9 years of friendship,
Listen to me. Well, that was uncalled for, Mr. Mason. So let's get back to the camera. So you left the camera on the table.
Yes.
Now, when you realized you left it on the table, did you call this former friend of yours and ask him whether he had the camera?
No, he called me and let me know I had left it there, 30 miles.
That you left it there?
Yeah.
Does he, in fact, have it?
Yeah, he thinks it's mine.
Did you call this gentleman?
When I called Adrian, he was supposed to return the camera on Tuesday. He didn't call me on Tuesday. I called him on Wednesday, said, where's my camera? He said, I gave it to, I don't want to say this person's name, but he said, I gave it to this person. It's going to...
You gave it to Mr. X?
Yes.
He said, I gave it to Mr. X.
He said he gave it to Mr. X. Why did you do this?
Did you call Mr. X?
I asked Adrian for his number, and he said, I'm not doing you any favors. He said, I'll mail it to you in the mail, but I'm not doing you any favors. I called him back that day probably like 100 times. I went over to his house, left a note with his roommate.
How long ago was
this was late May. This is late May that this happened, middle of May.
She did not call me.
Just a second. Did you give her the phone number?
She has it already. When I stayed with her, I made numerous calls on her phone. They're all long-distance charges.
Listen, she doesn't have to be a detective. You borrowed the camera.
Yeah, I borrowed the camera.
Good. Now, you bought this camera new or used?
I bought it used.
And how much did you pay for it and when?
I bought this at the beginning of school, so that would be September. And when I bought it used from a private individual for about $250.
What do you mean about $250?
Well, it came with a flash, which I didn't give him, a camera bag, all extra stuff that, but the camera, what I gave him, $250.
You just said it came with a flash, which you didn't give him.
Yeah, I didn't
give him. It came with
give
a
him
bag,
that.
which you did or did not give him.
I didn't give him the bag now. Because when he asked
me... Did you pay
me,
for this by check or cash?
Cash.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
She tried to sell me this camera for $80.
When?
You know what I'm saying? Between the point where I found her, what happened at the club, she called me 3 times in between then. I never called her. One time she called me telling me she wanted to sell me this camera for $80. I didn't have the money at the time, so I never spoke about it again. She called me another time, asked me to go to lunch with her. I denied. The last time she called me, she wanted to ask me about some boxes because she was moving. Well, she's moving, I'm moving, so we're going to get together and talk about all the nonsense we did in our relationship because we're going our separate ways.
What does this have to do with the price of the camera?
She sold it to me for $80. I said that already.
No, you said she wanted to sell it to you for $80.
She wanted to.
Is that right?
The amount is incorrect.
How much did you offer to sell it to him for?
We talked about it, and we decided at first $120. we had said that we were gonna, he was gonna buy it for 120.
Right. 120, madam, isn't what you're suing for here, which is $450.
The 450 is because it was for my class. So when he didn't give me back my camera, I had to rent a camera to finish my photo class. And I told him this. I said, I need my camera back today, you know, because
show me the
from
price.
my photo
Show me the
class.
receipt for the rental. This isn't a receipt for a rental.
That's how much it costs for the rental.
No. A receipt for a rental. If you went to a place and rented a camera, you would have gotten a receipt for the number of days that you rented it. This is just a brochure of how much it would have cost if you would have rented it.
Yes, I understand that, Judge.
You understand. So these are pictures, and this is a brochure. Show me the receipt, since this all happened very recently. Show me the receipt for the rental of the camera that you say you rented.
Yes, the reason why I do not have the actual receipt is because I just moved from San Diego to LA, and all my stuff is at my parents' house. So I wasn't able to find that.
This you have.
Because I made a trip this weekend to San Diego
then
for the camera shop.
Then if you made a trip to San Diego to the camera shop, you could have asked them for a duplicate receipt.
Yes, they weren't able to do that.
You could have if, in fact, you did rent a camera. I'm not so sure that you rented a camera.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Do you understand what I said to you? You can talk from today till tomorrow. It does not make sense for you to go back and get the brochures and not get a duplicate receipt. Do you understand what I just said? Clear. Good. Give it back to her.
And later today.
I remember getting in a scuffle with her. Yes, I do. I don't remember who swung first. I don't remember what the argument was about. I remember the police coming over that night. Her nose was bleeding. I had scratches all over my face. So, I mean, it was a mutual thing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christy Phillips wants her camera back from her former boyfriend, Adrian Mason. Adrian says he told her where her camera was. He left it at a restaurant.
You know what doesn't make sense to me? You offered to sell him the camera for $120. He says $80. Let's assume I believe you, because there's no question he's responsible for this camera. He's going to buy this camera, and then he can go get it back from the person who he says has it. All right? That's not the issue. The issue is how much. Now, if I believe you, it's worth $120, because that's what you offered to sell it to him for. Then why would you have spent another $300 to rent a camera if you could buy a camera for $100?
Because you can't. The kind of camera I have, you cannot buy. When I offered him the $120, that was because we were together. He wanted this camera our whole relationship. So when we were together, I said the $120. No camera that's a camera with a lens, with the 50 millimeter lens, a zoom lens, no camera, you're not going to be able to find that for $120.
You found it, you said, you just told me for $250, but now you want $450.
Because I had to pay.
You want twice as much as what you paid for the camera. Well, that's not going to happen.
No, Judge, I paid the $250 for the camera when I bought it. It was a good deal. I'm not going to find that good of a deal anywhere else. And also, Judge.
And you don't have a receipt when you bought the camera?
For the rental. It was a private
I'm not giving you any money for the rental, madam. I think it's a lot of baloney. Because if you went back to the camera shop to get these prices, you could have gotten a duplicate bill if, in fact, you did rent a camera. Do you understand what I said to you? You can talk from today till tomorrow. It does not make sense for you to go back and get the brochures and not get a duplicate receipt. Do you understand what I just said? Clear. Good. Give it back to her. Now, you do not have a receipt for the used camera that you purchased.
No, I do not.
So I have to rely on your word that you, in fact, paid $250 for it. You say she paid less for the camera.
She told me she did.
Judge, can I say...
Just a second. No, say nothing.
If she knew I wanted this camera the whole time, why would she even give it to me 2 days before she has to do something so important? I called her to let her know where her camera was. She never called me.
Mr. Mason.
You know?
You are irresponsible.
Judge,
do you see my mouth moving?
Yeah, I saw it moving. I'm sorry.
Judge, can I say one thing?
No. You tell me one thing that I can believe, perhaps I'll listen to you in a second. You had a responsibility, if you borrowed her camera, to return it, not to call her up and tell her where she could get it. That's not what happens. When you borrow something, you return it. That's responsible. Now, you can't come into court, madam, and tell anything less than 100% truth. Assuming that what you say is true, that you paid $250 for this camera, I'm assuming that what you say is true. And I'm assuming that you offered to sell it to him for $120. Just a second. What I don't believe, madam, is that you rented a camera, bringing your total claim to $450. That I don't believe. We understand each other?
I understand, yeah.
Good. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step
Stay out of my life, dude, for real. If she knew I wanted this camera all this time, why would she give it to me, 3 days before she has to do something so important that she rents a $450 camera? 3 hours from my house, she brings me somewhere so we can talk about our life on TV. That's not a woman, that's a little girl, for real. I don't have a friend anymore. I lost a friend because of her, and I lost $200. And then I go home, broke. Now what,
And now the next case.
Parties on Martindale versus Noble. Step forward, please.
21-year-old letter carrier Shanna Martindale claims former live-in lover, 23-year-old electrician Andrew Noble, threatened to kill her. She put him out. Now she wants rent from him.
You two folks lived together for a brief period of time, rented an apartment together. According to your complaint, the defendant assaulted you. You obtained a restraining order against him, had him put out of the apartment. Your lawsuit seeks damages for the assault, as well as the expenses that you incurred for the apartment after he moved.
Correct.
Your defense is you followed the court order, you moved out of the apartment, so you shouldn't be responsible for the rent.
Exactly.
And that you don't really talk much about the assault, except say that you pled guilty, which is...
Yes, I did.
And you spent a couple of days in jail.
Yes, I did.
How long did you live together before this assault took place?
We lived together for a couple of years, and then it happened a couple of times, but it just went by, and then the last time it happened, he threatened to kill me, so that's when I went to, this is my witness, Mandy Smith. I went over to her house and called the police and filed a report.
Well, he threatened to kill you, but you claim that he assaulted you and caused a scar on your lip. When was that?
This was a couple months beforehand. We had gotten into a fight at night, and he had tried to break my nose.
When you say you got into a fight, tell me about that.
We just would go out, and then we'd come home and get into an argument, and then it'd just lead to one thing to another.
Tell me about it. That's not. I assume it's not funny.
No, we just had gotten into it.
Well, tell me about it,
One
madam.
thing was said to another.
The most of your lawsuit is about the injury that you suffered as a result of this assault, which occurred 2 months before you finally separated, according to you. Is that right? Is that right?
Correct.
Fine. Then I want you to tell me about that assault.
Okay, well, we came home. We got into an argument.
What was the argument about? And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember. This was back like around Christmas. I don't remember word for word, but it just came out as, he thinks I dressed
We
like
had been
a
out
slut.
drinking the night before, Your Honor. I mean, there's no way either of us can probably even remember that fight.
Do you remember hitting her, sir?
I remember getting in a scuffle with her. Yes, I do. I don't remember who swung first. I don't remember what the argument was about. I remember the police coming over that night, and they turned around and left. I mean, her nose was bleeding. I had scratches all over my face. So, I mean, it was a mutual thing.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
He had a hold of my ponytail and had me held to the ground, talking to his mom on the phone at the same time, saying he was going to kill me. She needed to call somebody and get him over there.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Shanna Martindale says former live-in lover Andrew Noble assaulted her, scarring her face.
Do you remember that evening?
Yes, I do. I mean, I don't remember exactly what the argument was about, but yes, I remember getting into the scuffle with him.
Did you scratch him on the face?
Yes, I did.
A scuffle is not an assault. A scuffle is when two people get together. He's hitting, you're scratching, he's got scratches on his face, you have scratch on your lip. I mean, how am I supposed to make a determination in a court match?
Your Honor.
How am I supposed to make a determination with regard to that assault that happened? And there was no arrest, Is that right?
Right.
And you didn't file a complaint?
Right.
And you didn't go to the doctor?
No.
Now that we've taken care of the assault, let's take care of what happened 2 months later when you had him put out of the house.
Okay.
So tell me what happened when you had him put out of the house.
Let's see, around the beginning of the year, we had started not getting along. I had asked him to leave. He told me no, he'd rather stay with me and be unhappy than to leave me and be unhappy. So then that's when I started staying at my dad's a lot. And one morning I came home to get a uniform for work. I was standing there brushing my teeth. He came in on a rampage, grabbed my mouth. I spit my toothpaste in his face, so he threw me down into the tub. We continued out into the kitchen after he threw my hairdryer at me. He had a hold of my ponytail and had me held to the ground, talking to his mom on the phone at the same time, saying he was going to kill me. She needed to call somebody and get him over there. So at that time, I broke loose from him. I went out to my car and I drove over to her house.
Does that sound familiar?
More or less.
Okay. So you were arrested.
Yes, I was.
Spent 2 days in jail.
Yes, I was.
Pled guilty.
Pled guilty. Kicked out of my home.
How much was the rent on this apartment?
$500 a month.
And had you been sharing the rent?
Yes.
And how much more did you have to go on the lease?
I had to pay $850 to terminate the lease.
Which she didn't pay. Which she didn't pay. I just talked to the lady from the leasing agent Friday, and she said that Shanna's not paid this money. She said she went to rent the apartment out.
The lady told me I had to come up with the half, and then with AJ's half, to let her know what I was doing.
Okay. So you really have to come up with $425.
Right.
The state's in my
Shut! How much after you had him arrested did you move out?
2 months.
Did you pay the rent for that 2 month
Yes, I
period?
did.
Your entire rent was $1,000 for those 2 months, so his share would have been $500. So the amount of your claim is $925.
And then the keys that weren't returned, that was $30.
You mean his keys?
Right.
Well, they're his keys. They're going to go after him for $425 for termination fee. Are you working?
I have it 25.
I work every day of my life.
Good. So they're going to come after you. You were on the lease, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now, let me explain to you what your defense is, Mr. Noble. Your defense is you followed a court order and vacated the apartment.
Exactly.
Right. And I'm going to tell you that you vacated the apartment through fault of your own.
Yes.
Your fault was you pled guilty
Yes, ma'am.
to either an assault or an attempted assault on her, which means that you are responsible for this money. Now, you think that just because you followed the court order, you're not responsible for this money. You are responsible for the money because your actions caused you to be put out of the apartment.
I understand.
So the judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $925. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I thought it was going to cost me more. It didn't, so I'm just happy it's all over.
Got what I came to get, so I'm happy.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 165 on the calendar in the matter of Stringfellow versus Parrish. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
This is a rather sad situation. Mr. Stringfellow, this is your stepson. Is that right?
Yes.
Are you his mother? According to your complaint, you made a loan to your stepson to buy a car or a truck, and he didn't pay you back. Is that what this is about?
That's correct.
As a result of that, he says that he was asked to leave the house, and he has not really been able to have free contact with his mother. And you have a sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And a sister. How old are you?
Now I'm 21.
Tell me about this loan, Mr. Stringfellow.
It's just a family loan. He was wanting to buy a car, and there was a used pickup truck involved, and I told him that I would loan him the money to fix the truck up, and he could drive that and would have no payments or low payments. And he didn't want to do that. He wanted to buy a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And I lent him the money, and
How much money did you lend him?
$1,400 and some change.
Okay. And he bought a car. And what was your arrangement as far as paying it back?
He was to pay his mother back at, what was it, baby?
His first paycheck of every month.
The first paycheck of every month.
How much was his first paycheck of each month supposed to be?
It's around $400.
Why don't you step up here? Hmm?
It was around $400.
Okay.
Judy, can I sit down? I
Sure.
have muscle spasms.
Sure, absolutely. You feeling all right? You want to stop for a minute?
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll be okay.
Sure. Can you tell me this story?
Yes, ma'am.
So the first paycheck came and you didn't get a payment from your son. Is that what happened?
That's correct.
Did you speak to him or did his stepfather?
We both spoke to him. He usually gets paid on Friday. When Friday came and the paycheck, he didn't turn over to me. I asked him where his paycheck was. That particular time, the paychecks weren't going to come until Saturday. So on Saturday, the paychecks came, but he forgot and left it at the office. He'd bring it home on Monday. On Monday, he forgot it again. He would bring it on Tuesday. When Tuesday got there, he finally brought it home, and finally Wednesday, he tells us that he got health insurance at his work and that they had deducted the entire premium out of his check, and he didn't know it because it was short.
So did he give you the check?
No, ma'am. He had already cashed the check, and he had been instructed by his stepfather to bring the check to me in its entirety and that I would deposit it.
Okay, did he give you any money?
No, he did not.
Who asked your son to leave the house?
My husband asked him to leave the house.
When was that?
This was in probably, I would say, 1st of October.
How much after this car loan?
A little over a month, but leaving the house had nothing to do with the car loan.
What was that about?
He had gotten belligerent toward myself and his sister.
How belligerent, Mrs. Stringfellow?
Talking to me very abruptly, pushing me around.
You mean physically touching you?
And so my husband had told him that he would not endure this in our home and that he would need to seek other living arrangements.
Okay, Mr. Parrish.
First of all, I love my mom. She took me out of a bad situation, period.
What do you mean she took you out of a bad situation?
My previous home where I lived before I met her, I was in drugs and alcohol. My stepfather there was very abusive. He hit me, stuff like that. So she took me out of that.
So you're an adopted child?
Yes.
How old were you when your mom adopted you?
Anywhere from 15 to 16. I was in the end, right at the end of 9th grade.
So you've been living in their home and been her child for the last 5 years?
6 years, yes.
6 years. So you love her?
Very much. And two, Your Honor, I never touched or even did anything to my mom. We had arguments, I admit to that. But they wasn't very physical on my side. She used to grab my chin and everything. At that point, I pushed her back and held her back. That was the only
So you put your hands on her,
right.
is what you said.
When she grabs me, I held her hand.
When you
and I
said
moved
she
her.
grabbed you said she grabbed your chin.
Always.
Like this?
Yes. She always grabbed me like that. Always.
Like this?
Yes.
And you pushed her?
Right. I pushed her
that's-
hands. I didn't push her chest. And
Okay.
there's a different means there.
All right, but you put your hands on her and you're bigger than she is, and
Right.
that's it. So they told you to leave. What about this $1,400 loan?
Well, it all started that day that we were supposed to go pick up this Dodge at her friend's house, the truck in question.
You mean the old truck
Yes, ma'am.
that you don't have, that you didn't like?
Right.
So you went there,
Right.
you saw this old truck, you didn't like it.
Correct.
Go ahead.
At that point, Mr. Stringfellow said, "Okay, I'll make you a deal. You get paid you get paid twice a month. You keep one paycheck, I'll keep the other, and we can sell the truck." Jim, which is the person that was fixing the truck up, said he can get $1,300 out of it. So I said I agreed to that. Well, later that night, Mr. Stringfellow agreed to go ahead and give me the $1,300 up front because I was going to have to wait 2 weeks to a month to actually get the money from the truck to get with my $2,000 to put down on a car payment. At that point, I said, you know, he offered me the $1,300, and I said, okay, well, what if we sell the truck for less? Because at that point, if he agreed to, I had to pay him anything, I would never took the money. I would have waited to sell the truck.
Was this truck ever sold?
No, ma'am.
No,
I
ma'am.
still own the truck. We never intended to sell the truck.
And see, that was never, they never told me that. If I knew if it was a loan to him, I would have been paying it back a year ago.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
His stepfather was a drunk using dope. We tried to contact his biological father in the military. He kept running, trying to stay away from us because he thought we was wanting child support.
And later today,
So, in exchange for $250 for groceries, cigarettes, and medication, you wanted them to send you the title to the mobile home.
Yes, and they said they would.
Well, why would they do that for something that you say is
'Cause
worth $2,500? They say $7,000.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ricky Stringfellow wants his adopted son to pay back a car loan.
How did you find this young man?
This young man was a friend of my daughter's in band. He, like he said, he came from a terrible home. His stepfather was a drunk using dope. He knocked him around a lot. He had no use for him. And I really felt sorry for the child. You know, when you get a kid at a band concert and you look at him and he's fixing to walk about 20 miles home, and, you know, when he gets there, you know, there's nobody there going to be up to accept him and this type of thing. So I started taking him home. I took him into my home. He started coming into my house on weekends and staying with me. The first weekend I kept him. I asked to meet his mom. He said, oh, my mom won't care. I kept him.
Is this your biological mother?
Right.
Right. I kept this child from Saturday morning till I took him to school on Monday morning. You know, never seeing his mother. Picked him up again on Thursday, kept him then off and on, and then in August, she signed him over to me. We tried to contact his biological father in the military. He kept running, trying to stay away from us because he thought we was wanting child support. He made no effort to come and see the child, and so the judge awarded me custody. And that's how I got him.
That sound right to you?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the kind of lady who would lie to me.
No.
Where are you living now?
At the present time, I'm living in North Little Rock.
Do you have your own apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
You still working?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a store manager.
Well, it would seem to me that you owe this lady a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I owe her a lot.
And that this problem of this $1,400 is a problem that she probably has with this new husband. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got to get the money back so that they could be happy together and not have this as an irritant. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Next issue. You're an adult now.
Right.
21 years old. Right? Your mother goes like this. Sit on your hands.
Okay.
You sit down with your spasm for a second.
Thank you.
You came into this family situation kind of late, sir. And it seems to me that your wife is a very special human being.
She is.
And it seems to me that with the kind of background and childhood this young man had, despite the odds, he turned out reasonably well. He's 21 years old. He's been holding down a job for 2.5 years. He supports himself now. He lives by himself. More than I can say for my kids at age 21, I can tell you that. So why don't we try to let this bad incident just go away? Do you think you could do that?
It would be nice to have a fresh start. And the only thing that's kept him from being away from our home is I've told him when he comes into our home, he's to conduct himself as a gentleman and as a son. And that doesn't mean being abusive to his sister nor his mother.
That's over, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you traveled to court here from Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
Came on different planes?
Yes.
Stayed at different hotels last night? Yes. How about going out for breakfast together?
That'd be great.
Okay, Mrs. Stringfellow?
Be fine.
Right after court?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. You pay for breakfast.
Okay.
Great.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm actually glad that the fact that I can actually talk to my mom now with him on national TV saying that I can.
I'm glad I've got my son back. It all turned out okay.
I love you, son. Love you.
And now the next case.
Bodies on Christian versus Coleman. Step forward, please.
Clyde Christian says his sister, Nancy Coleman, owes him a motorhome and storage fees.
Mr. Christian, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
You are her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing her because you want her to turn over the title to her mobile home because you say you did a lot of work on it. She says, no. You initially took the mobile home, but then she agreed to let you keep it.
Borrow it.
Borrow it because one of your kids needed it?
No. He was going through a bad divorce at the time. And I felt sorry for him, and I let him use the motor home for a while. And I said, when you get your own place, then I was going to go get it. And I tried several times to go get it. He always come up with an excuse why I couldn't have it. And now he wants the motor home. And it's not right.
Okay, so you want that back?
Yeah.
Correct.
Plus my hand controls.
What kind of hand controls?
Hand controls that go in a vehicle for people that's handicapped, so you can use your hands to drive instead of your feet.
Do you drive a car now?
Not now, but I want to get me a car later.
Okay.
Not right now.
All right, so you tell me, Mr. Christian, your version of how this motor home ended up on your property.
Okay. In July of '96, my sister let us borrow the motor home.
Okay.
We took it to Yermo when I went to work there. In October the same year, I asked her to purchase the motor home. She said no, I could not. At that time, I asked her what she wanted me to do with it, since I'm not a storage facility. She told me to store it and keep it for her. I called and let her know that it was $15 a day, average
Just a second.
rate.
Hold on. Mr. Christian, you borrowed it in July of '96.
Yes.
Did she charge you for using the motorhome?
No.
Well, why should you think that you should charge her for storage? She's your sister.
Yes.
She didn't charge you for using it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I love my brother. I really do love him, but he should never done this to me. I don't deserve this.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Clyde Christian says his sister, Nancy Coleman, owes him a motorhome and storage fees.
So why do you think that you should charge her for storage, which you say is $15 a day?
When I asked her to purchase it and she said no, I asked her, what do you want me to do with this motorhome? She said, keep it and store it for me. And I told her, look, I will call and find out what it costs. I did, and the average was $15 a day. This is almost...
Just a second.
Yes.
So you found out that it was $15 a day. And what happened after you found out that the average cost was $15 a day?
I let her know this.
What do you mean you let her know?
I called her on the phone.
Yes.
And let her know this is what the average charge would be.
Did he ever call you?
No.
No,
not
he didn't.
Because of that.
No, he didn't. He never called you. Come on, Mr. Christian. Just doesn't sound right to me.
Can I call my witness?
To tell me what?
That we did call her.
Sure. Let me have a witness
James?
who wants to tell me that they were there. Who are you?
I'm his son.
And you were using the mobile home?
For the 4 months, yeah.
And how long did you live in it?
For those first 3 months till we got our own place.
Did you store anything in it?
None of ours.
Of whose?
They had some things in it.
Like what?
His ham radio, hand controls.
Where is that stuff now?
His ham radio he has, and the hand controls are with us.
So you have the hand controls?
Yeah.
Now, were you present when this alleged conversation took place about storage fees?
I don't know about the conversation.
You don't?
No.
Good. Sit down. Any other witness you want to bring up?
My wife, Marcia?
Sure. Do you want to come up here and be
I will.
tested?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Do you want to tell me that you were present and you overheard a conversation with his sister about a storage fee of $15?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Sure, let me hear.
We've only been married since November, so I wasn't in on the beginning of this whole thing.
So just a second. So you weren't privy to any conversation in 1996 that talked about $15 in storage fees.
We had another conversation in January of this year, and I was
Just a
standing
second.
right there.
So my question to you is, and the response is, you were not present in 96 to talk about storage fees.
Not that first one, no, ma'am.
Good. So in January of 96, tell me about the conversation.
January of 98.
January of 98, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. We had them on the phone again, and we were telling them, you know, we'd like to buy it. Answered no. They asked for some money for medication for my sister-in-law, which we gladly sent. They said they would send the title to the motorhome in return for that, and they did not do that. And he asked her again about the $15 a day storage fee.
But according to you, as recently as a few months ago, your husband was still interested in buying the motorhome.
He has been, yes.
Huh. Wow.
Now, how much is this motorhome worth?
About $7,000.
$7,000. How much do you say it's worth?
$2,500 or less.
And how much did you send in for medication for your sister?
We sent her $50 for medication and another $200 for groceries and cigarettes.
So, according to your wife, in exchange for $250 for groceries, cigarettes, and medication, you wanted them to send you the title to the mobile home.
Yes, and they said they would.
Well, why would they do that for something that you say is
'Cause
worth $2,500? They say $7,000.
Well, Your Honor, it hasn't been tagged in 2 years, and I've tried to get them to send me the title so it could be tagged, and I've tried to purchase it numerous times.
They don't want to sell it to you, Mr.
Well-
Christian. They don't want to sell it to you, so get it off your property.
Well, they won't come and get it off our property.
Your Honor?
Just a second. You're going to get it?
Yes, ma'am. I'll
When?
get it today, if I can get it.
It's good. Go get it. He doesn't want it on his property anymore.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I'm not satisfied, sir, that they were told about the storage charges. And in addition, I think that your sister was very gracious by giving you the motorhome to use in your time of need. And certainly, if you went to rent a mobile home or a motorhome, it would be substantially more than $15 that you want to charge them for storage. She wasn't charging you. She said if you need it, take it.
Well, Your Honor, I didn't charge her with that. I didn't charge her till after the agreement.
Mr. Christian, I don't believe that
And
there was an
wasn't trying
agreement
to.
for storage because I believe that all along you wanted to buy this thing. That's
Right.
what your wife said. They don't want to sell it to you. They say it's worth $7,000. You say it's worth $2,500. You
Right.
can't come to terms on it. Go pick up your motorhome, sir,
Okay.
today.
Okay.
And in the motorhome, sir, I want you to put the hand controls. Understood? That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Out the back door to your right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
I love my brother. I really do love him, but he should never done this to me. I don't deserve this.
I've tried to be her brother for 20 years. I'm awful tired of the feud and the fighting. I'm not satisfied.
Step forward, please.
33-year-old construction supervisor Mark Hovey wants his engagement ring back from the mother of his child, 31-year-old Jacqueline Casaus. Jacqueline says the ring was a Mother's Day gift.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 166 on the calendar in the matter of Hovey versus Casaus. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat.
I'm trying to figure out the chronology in this case, Mr. Hovey. You and the defendant have a child together.
Right.
How old is that child?
She's 4.
Child is 4.
Mm-hmm.
But according to your complaint, 2 years ago, you decided to become engaged to the defendant.
Right.
It's putting things in sort of.
Mm-hmm.
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 And that didn't work out. You broke up. She kept the engagement ring.
Right.
1996, 1997, and 1998.
Mm-hmm.
You want the engagement ring back or the money for it?
Right. I always have.
She says she turned it in for the money.
Yes, I did.
When did you do that?
About 17 days after he gave it to me.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because he had a gentleman come to my work and serve me with paternity papers for my daughter to prove that he was her father. And I called him and told him that I had no money. I was going to have to get a lawyer to represent myself in court. And the only thing I had of value was the ring. So since he was making me take him to court, I was going to take the ring back for the money.
Well, what I find interesting are two things. I read your answer, and in your answer you say that this was not an engagement ring, but a Mother's Day present. So if it was a Mother's Day present, certainly, you know, you're not entitled to the ring back. What makes you think this was a Mother's Day present?
We bought it on Mother's Day. It was with a Mother's Day card. I also got these Mother's Day phone cards that came with the present. And my son and my daughter were both with us the day we bought it. And we also bought Mother's Day presents for his mother at the same time.
What did the ring look like?
It was a regular engagement, like a wedding set, but he never said, "Will you marry me? Here's, you know, an engagement ring." We went to his grandmother's house after that to give the presents that he had bought for their Mother's Day, and I showed it to everybody as my Mother's Day present.
That's not correct.
Well, did you make plans to get married after you gave her the ring, sir?
We never had a date set. At the time that I gave it to her,
Well, you didn't have a date set when your daughter was born either.
Right, I know, but we never set a date because we were still going up and down at the time.
What do you mean you were still going up and down at the time?
As far as our relationship was going up and down.
You mean even when you bought this ring?
Exactly.
Well, then what'd you buy the ring for?
Hopefully it would mean something, because I think she was having a problem because I never gave her an engagement ring, and she was having a problem with us not getting a for sure deal on us even being together.
Well, do you understand why he brought this paternity suit?
He said his lawyer told him that that was the first step.
His lawyer is absolutely correct. Did you explain to her why, at that time, you filed this paternity case?
Yes, I did.
What did you tell her?
I told her that I had started dating other people when she had moved out of the house. At that point, I figured the engagement was over. At that time,
is that what gave you the clue?
Yeah.
When you started dating other people?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had told her that I needed to have some type of visitation, because she would cut my daughter, and I was raising her son also as my own. And sometimes she'd just cut me off of seeing him. So I wanted something in from the court saying that I could see her at any time. I mean, during the visitation times.
And you couldn't agree on that?
No, we could not.
Did you try to work out the visitation between you before you went to court?
We tried.
It was working until other people started entering the picture and trying to run the show, and then it didn't.
What do you mean other people? You mean his present wife?
Yes.
I assume that you are remarried. That's what it says here. What do you mean enter the picture trying to run the show?
Mark and I were able to, he was seeing both my children and taking both of them for the visits, and he'd have them for overnight visits. Everything seemed fine. Until she came into the picture, she didn't want my son to be a part of their new family. So the kids were split up. So if the kids were to go over, only my daughter was allowed to go. So my son was left out in the cold, and it caused a lot of problems. And to this day, Mark and I cannot see eye to eye on
Mr. Hovey,
these issues.
Is there any ring of truth to that?
Somewhat. Sometimes she would let him come, sometimes she wouldn't, so he was off and on. So finally I decided he just does not need to come anymore because it wasn't good for him. That was the only reason on that.
Sad. Why is it that children are always the ones that
They're right
suffer
in
in
the
these situations?
Your Honor, Mark came right out and told me that she did not want Robert over at the house, because it seemed like every time he and I were feuding, Robert would go over and not be nice to her because he felt bad for me. And to this day, every time there's a visit, it's hard because he still calls Mark Dad. He thinks of Mark as his dad, and Mark does not respond in that way anymore because of her.
What was your name?
Delia Hovey.
Mrs. Hovey, you want to tell me what you perceive to be the problem with visitation?
When he did come to my house, she would tell both of them at first, don't eat her food, don't talk to her, don't talk to her. Lexi would come to me and hug me and kiss me when she first knew me. She told her, don't touch her, don't kiss her, don't look at her, don't eat their food. I cook every night for my family, and they would not eat because she would not let them eat.
How do you know that?
because they would tell us.
They would tell you
They
what?
would tell us.
They would
My mom said, I can't eat your food.
That's a lie.
From one day to the next, that child stopped kissing me and hugging me. I love that daughter dearly. And she did love me at first, but now since her mom said, don't do this, don't do that, she doesn't, still up to this day, she doesn't hug me. She doesn't kiss me. She talks to me, I mean, just like normal, because that's all she can do. She can't do anything else.
She's lying.
And as far as
Ask her
pizza,
how
she's
many
making
times she's
comments
ever
that I
combed
make
my daughter's
pizza.
hair.
I cook every single night.
Listen to me. You're supposed to try to make these kinds of separations as easy as possible for children. I assume you were angry at him. We got married shortly after you separated. Is that right?
That's one of the other points. If he considered that an engagement ring he gave me, he and I were still seeing each other 2 days before they went on their first date. She moved in a week later. 2 months later, they were married. So if he was engaged to me, why is he married to her?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's a lot of pathology here. Are you suggesting that he hit her in anger with a hockey stick?
Yes, he did, and he admitted it.
Not smart, Mr. Hovey.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Hovey wants the engagement ring returned from the mother of his child, Jacqueline Casaus.
Mr. Hovey, according to you, sir, you knew that this ring was returned 2 years ago.
Right.
What took you 2 years, sir?
It's just I figured that my visit, my statute of limitations was coming up in October when she returned the ring, and I wanted to see if I can get something done before that.
Something must have happened recently because you didn't pursue this matter for 2 years.
We're still in civil court also on my daughter.
Oh, so that's
because
the
she's
reason.
in contempt of court as far as me. I still don't get to see my daughter like the courts say.
So that's the reason.
That's part of the reason.
Of course, that's part of the reason. I knew there had to be something 2
Yeah,
years
that
later
is
for
part of
this
the reason.
for this problem to come up.
Right.
Now, what's your visitation schedule?
I get her on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 o'clock to 8, and then I get her on Saturdays from 12 noon to Sunday at 12 noon.
And what's the problem with the visitation?
Sometimes she decides whenever she just doesn't want to give her to me.
Do you go every time to pick her up?
I make a police report every time. Yes, I do. And I make a police report every time she doesn't let me see her.
What's the problem with visitation?
He's supposed to pick her up by 5, and if he doesn't pick her up by, and this is in our court papers, he has 15 minutes. If he is more than 15 minutes late, he cannot pick her up. Because at the beginning he was supposed to pick her up at 5, and sometimes he wouldn't show up till 7:30. And think because he came at 7:30, he could start his visit from there. That's just, I mean, I'm just giving you an example.
Just, Mr. Hovey, shh. This is all not new. I want to tell you something. I've heard this story 1,000 times. So because he doesn't come on time, you had put in the court order that he's got a 15-minute grace period.
So that he would try to start coming on time instead of just... his reason to me when I asked him is, why can't you come on time? He says, you have no life. You don't have anything else to do, so you could just sit there and wait for me. And I know it was a sarcastic remark, but I said, no, I am not going to... So we had it put in the court papers, and if he picks her up at the babysitter documents what time he comes, and I told her, if he's late, call me, I will come back from work and pick her up.
Have you come late to pick up your daughter?
I've never been over 15 minutes late. If I was going to be late, I have her number to call her and let her know if I'm going to be late.
And how many times have you done that?
I have never called her once.
You made a child together when you weren't ready to make a commitment to each other, to make a life together. That was a very dumb thing to do. But you have a 4-year-old daughter, and I assume that based on the fact that you've gone to court, Mr. Hovey, to pursue your visitation, and you did so right from the beginning, you want to be a good father.
Right.
Is this your only child?
That's my only child. Well, no, I have a 4-month-old now.
Okay. But for a long time, this was your only child.
Right.
And you pay child support?
Yes, I do.
How much do you pay?
$579 a month.
Well, that's a reasonable amount of child support. And you're working too?
Yes, I am.
So, your daughter is supposed to have a father. And she's lucky because even though you're not together and you've never been married, it seems to me that he's pursuing, seeing her and wanting to maintain her in his life and vice versa. That's a very important thing. You're not supposed to do anything to interfere with that. Anything. As a matter of fact, you're supposed to put whatever bad feelings that you have about him and his present marriage and everything else, supposed to try to shelve that if you can for the good of your child, because you have 2 children. This gorgeous young man over here.
Thank you.
And a 4-year-old daughter who I assume is equally as pretty. So you're not supposed to make it more difficult. You're supposed to make it easy. Now I come back to you. Because there are always shades of gray. There is some truth, I think, in what she says when she says that you have, on occasion, made a sarcastic remark. Listen,
Not that one, I have not. I have made some, yeah.
you have made some, but
Right,
not one.
but not that one, yeah.
All right. Well, I won't even ask you, give me an example, because I'm sure you have. So you're supposed to show nothing but respect for her, because you may not love each other anymore, but she still is the mother of your child. You're supposed to try to be nice to each other. Mr. Hovey, I am unsympathetic with regard to your request to get your money back for this ring, for several reasons. Not the least of which is that you waited 2 years to do it. You knew that she had returned the item immediately. You rested on your laurels and did nothing. And the precipitating factor in your coming to court today is this other lawsuit that's pending now. This will only exacerbate that. You're not supposed to make it hard for him to see the child. You're supposed to make it easy for him to see the child.
I don't mind him seeing her. I know she loves him. I know he loves her. But when she comes home, when she's got bruises on her or she's not combed, we have a thing on that right now because he hit her with a hockey stick when she was at his house.
Just a second. Are you suggesting that he hit her in anger with a hockey stick?
Yes, he did, and he admitted it. We have court papers. The police were called in. Child Services.
Just a second. Who called the police in?
I did.
Of course you did.
That has been investigated, and that has been closed.
Actually, her doctor called them when I took her to the doctor. The doctor's the one that called because she said she cannot let that pass.
Just a second. What did this bruise look like, madam?
In the words of the doctor, it was about as...
No, you tell me.
It was...
A black and blue mark?
Yes, about as big as a silver dollar or a $50.
And for that black and blue mark, you took her to a doctor?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because she came home crying, telling me that her dad had hit her with a hockey stick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You knew that that was going to happen. That's the exact reason you went to the doctor.
And
because you didn't go to the doctor, madam, because you were concerned for the child's welfare, that she was injured in some way. You took the child there to document something.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Mark Hovey wants the ring or the money from former live-in lover and mother of his child, Jacqueline Casaus.
There's a lot of pathology here. Did you hit your daughter in anger with a hockey stick?
I had hit her. I had tapped her on the side right here. We were playing, and she had hit me in the back of the head with the hockey stick. And I grabbed the stick from her, and I went like that. I went like that. It didn't. The bruise wasn't even a bruise. If she did bruise, I will take full responsibility for it.
Okay. So what you're telling me, she hit you in the head, and you took it, and you said, don't do that, and you went like this.
Right, and I hit her.
Not smart, Mr. Hovey.
Right.
Not smart.
I understand.
All right.
But it was investigated, and it was closed.
I assume that it was because you still have your visitation.
Yes, sir.
All right. Lighten up. Don't look for excuses.
I don't look for
excuses. Yeah,
excuses.
sure you do.
No. When it comes to my
put your hand
kids,
down. You're not supposed to get involved in this thing.
Yeah.
Not supposed to get involved.
When it comes to my kids, they're all he and I have. If he's not watching out for them, I have to watch out for them. Just
Madam,
like if they were at his
let
house.
me tell you something. He acted not too smart, biting his child with a hockey stick. That didn't require you taking the child to a doctor for a black and blue mark that was the size of a silver dollar. Doctor getting involved, as the doctor has to, and making a report to special services. You knew that that was going to happen. That's the exact reason you went to the doctor. Because you didn't go to the doctor, madam, because you were concerned for the child's welfare, that she was injured in some way. You took the child there to document something.
That's right, and I do it again.
Of course you did.
And I'll do it again if it happens
Well, then,
again.
I want to tell you something. Then what you're doing is you're hurting your child, and there is absolutely nothing that I can do. But I will tell you, if he made a mistake, and he certainly did, and I just told him he made a mistake, it would be no different from if your daughter was crossing the street, and you, instead of going out there and trying to talk, don't cross the street because there may be cars coming, you grab her by the arm, and you pull her back, and you dislocate her arm by accident. And it's the time that he has the child for visitation. And he says, what happened to her arm, and you explain the problem. He said, this is good. I'm going to take the child to the doctor, and I'm going to start setting up broken arm, splinter in the finger, a cut on the side, all because of her negligence. That's what you're doing. I want you to think, if the two of you were living together and this happened, you would not have taken the child to a doctor over a little black and blue mark. You may have had an argument with him. That's right. But you wouldn't have rushed the child for emergency treatment. The reason you did it is because you are not together anymore. That's why you did it. Wow. And it's wrong. 100% wrong. I'm here to tell you that it's wrong. You can nitpick to an extent where it will make it so difficult for him that he'll say, listen, it's just not worth it, and it's interfering with my life. Maybe that's what you want, and then you can tell your daughter that she has a miserable father and her father doesn't want to see her.
No, I don't.
Maybe that's what you want.
She'll learn that on her own.
Or you just want. No, she won't. Listen, you have a passive-aggressive personality. She won't learn that on her own unless you teach her.
No.
It's a mistake for a child to think, my daddy's a bum. He doesn't treat me well. He doesn't take care of me. That's what you would like. You would like to say, my mommy's wonderful and my daddy's a bum. And if you think that that's a good idea, you're going to have a child who will perhaps love you as she gets older and perhaps resent you once she develops a mind of her own, and resent you forever. Choice is yours.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Mr. Hovey, I'm not going to exacerbate this matter any further by ordering her to pay you money for this ring. We understand each other?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Your lawsuit's dismissed.
Your Honor,
Please excuse. You may step out.
What?
I had a countersuit on
For
that.
what?
There's 2 quilts that belong to my children that I had wanted to get back, and he was supposed to bring them today to give them back, and he didn't.
Oh, I was.
Just a second.
Well,
Just a second. Do you know what blanket she's... Listen to me, Mr. Hovey. Do you know what blanket
she's talking about?
What blanket is she talking about?
One blanket she's talking about. The other day she saw my kid, my 4-month-old, in it, and it's a Tweety Bird blanket. She told me, she says, Mark, can I get that back whenever he's done with it? She can have it back. I told her that.
Just a second. So
you
said fine.
That's right. Then
What's the other one?
The next one is a blanket, a quilted blanket that we bought at an auction that I bought. I bought with a credit card, and it was from him. It's got his handprint on it. I intend to give that to Robert later on. I've got lots of things of Robert.
Why don't you give it to him now?
He can have it now.
You want your blanket back with your handprint?
Yes,
When are you going to get it to him?
As soon as possible.
ASAP
When I get
means
back.
within a couple of days?
Exactly.
Terrific. Thanks. That's all.
Please excuse. You may step out. Step back, go to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I knew he wasn't going to win. It was a present, and that's what I intended it as, so I'm happy.
I was trying to get along with her, and I should have filed.